Good morning. Is everyone showing up already? So I originally was going to do this on Instagram and TikTok, and I am again having a device failure. We'll be on Instagram a little bit later, but for now we're just going to be on TikTok. So if you're joining here and you saw from Instagram, if you're in the local upholstery club, if you could post that we're just going to be doing TikTok at first, share this in there so that everybody knows what that is. Good morning. We do this typically every Tuesday. We do Tutorial Tuesday, but we started working on this chair yesterday, and I haven't been able to sleep since because I want to finish it because it's so pretty. So I have a poll going on Facebook. I'm going to actually put it here too. I think I can put a poll here. Interact. Text poll. So I'm trying to find out... I want you guys to help me figure out which one of these fabrics that I want to use for the welt for this chair. I can't think and talk at the same time. Give me 2 seconds to put this out. And I'm going to make this poll go for 5 minutes. Okay, so I am going to be putting Welt Pli-Grip batting on this chair today. I won't be able to put the back panel fabric on because I'm waiting for a replacement fabric from Spoonflower because the one I got wasn't exactly what it was supposed to look like. So they're going to fix that, and then they're going to send me over a new order so that I can use that. But I have the print here so you guys can see that and you can help me make this decision. So I am going to sew Welt first. So I'll show you guys how to make Welt, sew it, but I need to pick which color of Welt that I want to use for this project. So let me get this over here, and I'm going to flip this camera around. So you guys can see what I'm working with. So the blue chair on the stand, this one, is what we're working with today. There's 2 of those for this set. And then this chair is part of the 4-chair set that goes with the whole dining set. So this is the paint treatment. I'm going to put a little bit more gold in the details there, but for the most part, this is the paint treatment, a little French Provençal type. It's not really distressed. I wipe on the paint, so there'll be a couple more layers of white and gold before I'm finished, but this is the gist. So what I'm trying to figure out is what I want to use for Welt for the side of the chair that I'm working on, and this blue fabric is also part of it. This particular blue fabric is a mess. I pulled it out of the trash, but this is the blue velvet that is going on the seats. So, on this chair, it'll be this blue velvet on the front and back, and then this floral print is going to be on the back of all the chairs so that they all match. So I need to figure out which one of these that we're going to use, and I ran a poll on Facebook and Instagram, and it was fairly unanimous. I only had one person choose one of the colors, and everybody else chose the other color, but I'm curious to see what you guys think I should choose. And while we think about that, while we go through the poll, I'm going to kind of show you what I set up. This is how I typically try to visualize things, and I try not to change my mind like as I go through projects because it takes up a lot of time, but I couldn't help myself this time. I will also say that the colors on this screen are highly saturated. They are not this bright in person, and I don't know why Facebook does this, or Instagram. Oh, hold on, there's a filter on it. Smooth filters. I'm trying to get it to look like how it does in person. Oh, that's close. Oh, if I put a filter on and turn it all the way down, then that's what it looks like in person. Okay, so that's That's the actual color. So I have set up this welt here, and I'm going to pin the other fabric to it, so that you guys can get an idea of what it will look like with the side panel on. This is the print that I ordered from Spoonflower originally, but it was a little bit short on the yardage, and you can see print lines in it, and it was not what they intended. As soon as I contacted them, the customer service was very apologetic, and then ensured me that they would replace the order with the right amount of fabric. It was a really great experience. So I'm very excited to still be receiving this print. This is designed by a woman named Nikki Quartermain of Studio Q, and she designs and sells prints on Spoonflower. And that's something that you can do if that's a thing that you do. Anybody can design and be a designer on Spoonflower, and then you can design your own prints and have them printed. I do love the feel of the fabric. I think that that is high quality fabric. I'm really pleased with that. It's very soft too, which is really nice. I just I'm less pleased with the way that the print turned out, because I don't like seeing print lines, but they assured me that that's not typical for their orders. We're falling apart here. Just toss this end up here so you guys can see. So here's a visual, and I have a poll going so you can participate too. So far I'm going to use, oh look at that, we got white, cream, and golden. So far it's 50-50. But on Facebook and Instagram it was overwhelmingly the gold color, and I think that that is probably where we're gonna go. So this is what the panels will look like on the sides. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. I like how the gold color sort of tones it down. It is a desaturated teal. It looks more saturated in the camera, but the gold color tones it down. But I thought I loved before the stark contrast of the white. And both of those colors are here in this white flower, and then there's even brighter white. Well, you can see it here in some of the other flowers on there. So I was torn, but I really do think that I like how it's less contrasty with the gold, and it still is the same color family that we're working with. So I think that that is what we're going to do. So today I'm going to show you, let me turn this around so you can see me and I can see you see me. Today I'm going to show you how to make the welt, sew the welt, apply the welt to the chair, and then we're going to put Pli-Grip and batting on there so that I can get it ready to put that fabric on. And I might be able to show you how the fabric is going to get attached, but we're not going to attach this fabric today because we're waiting for the final print for that. So, but I'll probably still be able to give you an idea of how to use Pli-Grip, which is very common. People tend to avoid using it because it looks scary and it's sharp. It can't be reused from furniture, so it's kind of a pain in the butt. It sucks to store. It's not like a fun tool. I call it death tape, but it does make your job a bajillion times easier. So I would highly encourage you to use Pli-Grip when appropriate. And sometimes just to make the job much easier, it's a super sturdy way to clean up and cover up all your staple work when you're working on an upholstery project. So today I'm going to show you how to cut 18 yards of welt from 2 yards of welt. I have a huge job here that I'm going to need a ton of welt for. I haven't measured yet, but I know that I'm going to need to cut at least 2 yards of this to make some welt. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that today. And I'm going to show you this trick I learned from the internet on YouTube from a 1980s instructional video on how to make welt cord on the bias, because I do want, when you cut your welt on the bias, it cuts it at its stretchiest point. And when you're putting welt around curvy corners on your chair, or it's going in waves, you want to avoid it wrinkling. And when it's not on the bias, when you bend it, it tends to crinkle and wrinkle in that area. But when it is on the bias, it curves much easier and it looks much cleaner. That being said, I rarely cut my welt on the bias because it's kind of a waste of fabric and you put a ton of seams in it. But for the purposes of this project, I want to, oh, I can't cut it on the bias. I just realized because I'm using velvet, and when you put velvet together in two different directions, it looks like two different colors. So if I put them together, if I cut it on the bias, it's going to cut them on the seam. Maybe we should test that theory. Because I wonder if it does, I wonder. Okay, we're gonna test it, I think. No, I don't have enough fabric. We're not gonna risk it. So I'm just gonna cut it on the straightaway then. So this is my cutting area. I do not have my own shop. I actually have a membership here at my local makerspace called Makerworks in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I pay a monthly membership so that I can access the space and the tools whenever I want, but I also can reserve this space, which is their common room classroom. I use it to teach my classes and I use it to work on my own projects. And I have access to the whole shop. Actually, my membership, the high-end membership that I pay, is access to the shop at any time of day. So I can come and go as I please 7 days a week, which is really cool. If you have a makerspace near you, I highly suggest you look it up. It's an invaluable tool, and if you're just getting started doing this and you're trying to make money doing it, saving money on tools and space, all of that, thinking that you need to get into your own brick and mortar or whatever to do this and sell it, you don't need to do that. Find as many free resources or accessible resources as you can before you start dumping all your money into a hobby like this, because this can be expensive if you're not making money along the way. So you have to save money. I don't know if you guys seen Flea Market Flip, but you gotta buy low, sell high, all that fun stuff. So we're going to cut the welt along the length of this gold fabric. I need, if I was sewing a box cushion, I would need 1 3/4 inch width welt in order to have a 1/2 inch seam allowance from the welt to the end. When I do this with, when I'm stapling the welt to the piece, it doesn't really matter if it is 1 3/4 inches because I'm not sewing it to anything. I'm not tailoring it to anything. So I usually go for the 2 inch mark just because it's easy for me to set my ruler down there because it's 2 inches thick. And then I just take it over to the chair. So we're going to be cutting some 2 inch strips of welt. First, we want to measure the piece to see exactly how much we're going to need. And I'll show you what we're doing with that. All right, let's take this off. I was very fortunate yesterday to have Thomas here to move the camera and answer questions. So I will be checking in from time to time to answer questions as I go. Leanna says, do you pay for it? And I'm assuming you're talking about my membership to the Makerspace. Yes, so I have a monthly membership. I pay the top tier membership, which is Keys to the Shop, which you can come and go anytime of night. It's $220 a month. So then I also have storage, and so I have to pay additional for the storage here. But they also have spaces that you can lease in this one, and a lot of maker spaces do. So they have offices that you can lease as your office space, and you can store your stuff in there too. No, for the material. What is the question again? Did you pay for it? The material? Yes. Yeah, I've paid for all the fabric that we're using here today. Okay, so I'm going to measure, this is where my welt is going. Let me set this back so you can kind of see the whole deal. So my welt is going to go up this arm, around one continuous piece, all the way around the chair to do the same thing on the other side of the arm. And then it's also, I'm going to need a welt that goes around the bottom of the chair. And I haven't decided if I'll probably do it in the gold. But I could also do it in this blue color so that it sort of blends more at the bottom. I might experiment with a little bit of that, but I'm not 100% sure. But for now, I'm just going to measure this distance so that I know how much welt to make and I can conserve material. So my welt is gonna fold down here and staple. So I give myself 2 inches because that's how much material I need to hold on to in order to be able to grip it. So I give myself 2 extra inches on either end of my measurement to make sure I can hold it with my hands. So, let's see. You want to do your best to stay right on the line. Of course, we're going to add a few inches to make sure that I'm going to stop at the halfway point here. At the halfway point here, I have 53 inches. So that's going to be 106 inches of welt all the way around. And I think that I have enough of this gold fabric to get that at one continuous length. So let's see. I'm going to measure that. Let's get this fabric out of here. After I measure and cut this, I'll go back to the comments to answer your questions. So if you have questions for me, go ahead and put them in there. Your questions do not have to be about the project that I'm working on now, but if you do have questions about this or any other upholstery project, I'm happy to answer them. Okay, so I need 106 inches. This is 60 inches long. I'm actually just gonna fold this in half because that's how I'm gonna cut it anyways, to make the measuring process easier. Because I can cut through 2 layers of fabric, so I can shorten my labor time here by simply folding this in half. So now we'll know if we have the length. 106 inches. And this is just 46 inches. So I'm gonna need 2 strips of this. And I wanna be able to make sure that I have enough for the bottom too. So I'm gonna cut 3 strips of this, but I'm only gonna cut as much welt string as I need to do the parts of the chair that I need, so I'm not sewing too much welt. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so I just use this ruler, because this doesn't have to be exact because I'm stapling it to the chair. So my ruler is 2 inches wide, and because I'm stapling this to the chair, 2 inches wide for my welt cord is all I need. Let me get a marker. I'm also going to do something here that they always tell you not to do, which is write on the face of my velvet fabric with a black Sharpie marker. Don't do that. Use chalk, use something removable. But you guys can't see very clearly if I don't use something dark. So I'm going to be using that. And I'll take my licks in the comments section. Thank you very much. And then I need 2 strips, or 3 is what I think we settled on. I can't see. I need to remember to wear these. And then 1 more. So now we can cut these loose and then sew them together. It's too risky to color on the top of your fabric with Sharpie, especially if you're new and you're not super confident about like your measurements, because if you ruin your fabric, you will not be able to undo it most of the time. But I've gotten Sharpie and ink out of velvet with acetone and OxyClean before, so it's possible. This fabric has been floating around for probably 4 years. I can't even remember where I got it from. Probably Discount Fabric Outlet. After I get these cut, I'll answer your guys' questions, and then we'll go to the sewing machine and we'll sew this well together. So one thing about velvet that is important for you to know, especially if you're sewing two pieces of it together, is that if the nap doesn't match, which means the direction, so velvet's kind of like hair and it grows in one direction, and if the nap doesn't match when you sew it together, like all the hairs are going in the same direction, it can appear to be two different colors. So I can show you, I think I can show you a good example of that by just flipping this upside down from where I cut it from. So now you can see the nap here ruffles when I wipe it in this direction, and it smooths when I wipe it in this direction, and it's the opposite here. So this way it smooths, this way it ruffles. And when you put them together with the naps in two different directions, it'll look like two different colors. Now look at every velvet furniture ad you've ever seen and pull your hair out, because they are all sewn in the wrong direction. So this is how it should look when it's together. Blends right in. Out of control. Fun stuff I didn't learn on my first velvet project, that's for sure. Okay, so now I'm gonna take a second to answer questions. If you guys are in here and you're learning something and you're having a good time and you want to hang out here with me, all I ask is that you tap on the screen whenever I remind you to. When you do that, it sends all of my content out to the For You page. It drives people to my page, my website, which is where I sell my upholstery classes. So I teach in-person upholstery workshops here at my local makerspace 4 days a week. Fridays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., Sundays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and Mondays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So you can take a 4-class consecutive weekend, like 4-day weekend of classes, and really get a lot of work done in your project. Each of my classes is 3 hours long. They're $75 for that 3-hour class. I have those group in-person classes that up to 6 people can join, and I also have group virtual classes on Monday evenings from 6 to 9 that up to 6 people can join. So for these classes, you bring your own projects at any stage with any level of experience. You don't have to know what to do. You can jump in at any class at any time and get started, and you can come to class, come and go as you please, or come and go as you need to. And I also have a supplemental private group on Facebook, so if you are working from home and you get stuck, you can actually post pictures, post videos, post your questions, tag me in it, and I'll be able to answer it for you. And that is free to participate in. The goal is to just get as many people learning upholstery as possible. So that is what I'm trying to do. So I'm gonna go through here now. Check. I don't think we have any questions. Let's see. I think that we are all caught up. So if you have questions along the way of what I'm working on, or of your own upholstery projects, or just if you've just been curious about things, feel free to go ahead and put them in the comment section. And when I look up, I will be able, when I, from time to time between each stage, I'll look up, answer as many questions as I can, and then I will get back to work. But I'm just working on this project, trying to finish it, and invited you guys here to join me if you have nothing better to do. So that's what we're gonna do. So let's go to the sewing machine, and then we'll sew these together. So we need to sew these end for end. We need to keep in mind that they need to be going in the same direction, the nap. So here, if I wipe this way, it wipes down. If I wipe this way, it ruffles up. So I need this to wipe down in this direction. And when I add one to the other end of it, I also need it to wipe down in that direction. And just to be sure, it ruffles in this direction. So they need to go together like this. So if I were to sew them together like this, end for end, 1/2 inch seam allowance, what's going to happen, even if you open this up and flatten it, after you fold this in half and put a rope in it, then you have like 4 layers of fabric right in a row, and you get this like unsightly little lump in the middle, and you don't really want that lump if you can avoid it. So what we do instead is we miter the corners at a 45-degree angle, and then we sew them together like that, and then it is making a spiral for the seam that goes around the rope, so it's not all bulked up in one area. It spreads out that bulk. So that's what we're going to do with this today. So this is the right direction to sew them together, but in order to sew them together in the bias, we have to cut a 45-degree angle from this corner down to here. And this is how I do it. Just like this, both in the same direction. I'm going to turn this one to face me, and then I'm going to put this one face to face with the welt like this. So now I have a picture frame, right? This is a 90-degree angle. This is what I want it to look like. So the best, easiest way to cut this at a 45-degree angle, I'm going to put this over to the sewing machine now. And let's get a little bit closer. And I can sit This is how I was holding it for the camera for you guys. So the best way to cut it at a 45-degree angle is align these corners so that this makes a 90-degree angle. The strips together make a 90-degree angle. And then I'm just going to simply cut. Let me make sure these are lined up. I want them lined up here, but I also want them flush here. I don't want this cut to be crooked if I can avoid it. So now I'm going to cut from this intersection down here where the two strips meet way up to this corner here. That's a 45-degree angle. It's got its own markings for you to make it easier. So I'm just going to cut up this way. And now I have these two at a 45-degree angle. Now I'm simply just going to flip this strip upside down to put them at a 90-degree angle going in this direction. So we're still looking at the picture frame. Still looking at the picture frame. And now these are face to face, but the angles are together. So you can sew that together. Now if you align these perfectly end for end like this, and you sewed it at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, when you open it up, your welt is going to be staggered. And you don't want that. You don't want your welt to be staggered. So the thing that you need to remember to do is to offset your seam by a 1/2 inch if you're doing a 1/2 inch seam allowance before you start sewing it. So I eyeballed it. I eyeballed a 1/2 inch and moved it down so it's offset that way. Now, you don't have to measure a 1/2 inch and do that perfectly. What you need to keep in mind is if you offset it by any amount, I could offset it by this much if I wanted to, but I'm gonna keep it at that 1/2 inch. You can offset it by any amount so long as you sew your stitch from this intersection where the two strips cross to this intersection where the two strips cross. So if I were to sew along that seam and open this up, these two strips are more in line with each other. So the more accurate you are sewing that seam together, the better that's going to look. So that's something to keep in mind. So it doesn't matter how much you offset it. All you have to remember to do is to sew from this intersection to this intersection. Now I am just noticing that this is dirty. So let me see if I can dust it off, because sometimes it just picks up stuff from its surroundings. There's a lot of dust in this shop. That looks good. Okay, so face to face. If you have questions about what you just saw, because sometimes that goes so fast you can't pick it up, just let me know and I'll help. So we're going to sew this now. I'm going to get the camera in a closer view so you can see. And then I'll go over the stuff about the machine too. So I'm just lining up that intersection with my needle, and then I want to pick up all of this welt so it doesn't, one, drag on the floor, and two, weigh down my stitch, because the fabric is heavy, and if it's fallen off the table, it's going to weigh that down and it's going to make the stitch crooked. So I need to support the weight of my stitch. Where do you get your chair frames? These particular chair frames that I'm using today, I got for free on Facebook Marketplace as part of a set of dining room chairs. I think actually I might have paid some money for that. I can't remember. I try to get things as close to free as possible. A lot of stuff I find in the trash. So 2 of these is going to be enough to cover the welt area that we're working on today. So I'm just going to sew from that intersection to this same intersection down here. I'm going to start with a back stitch, which means we go a little bit forward. And then a couple stitches backwards. And then keeping those edges lined up, I'm going to sew from here down to this intersection here. And I'm eyeballing that, but you can put guides on your machine. In this case, I wouldn't default to the 1/2 inch seam allowance because sometimes, especially velvet, because it's slippery, your offset will change by a little bit and then it won't be straight. In this case, it doesn't need to be perfect when you open it up, although that's pretty close to perfect. Because we're just going to fold it over and then staple it. So this helps when we open up this seam now and we flip it over. This helps spread this seam across the surface of this welt, and also makes it a little bit more invisible, which is really cool. So that looks really nice. So now we're going to sew the actual rope into it. But first I want to make sure that I am not going to sew too much welt. I need to conserve my welt. So I want to wrap this material around the bottom of my chair and cut it off to what I need, and then we'll sew some more welt. So I'm going to take this over to the chair. Maybe I can flip this around so I can see you see me and I can see what you can see. Okay. Get it to the proper millennial height. There we go. Kitty says that's a heavy duty machine. It is. It's a 206 RB-2 console, and I got it 8 years ago for $800, and it's a workhorse, and I enjoyed using it very much. So this is the welt that we just sewed. We need it to wrap around this area. So I need to see how much of this I'm going to need to do that, and then I'm going to cut off the extra that I don't need. First, though, I want to see how much extra I'm going to have, because it might be more important to me to center that seam at the top, middle, back than it is for me to let the seam just kind of ride anywhere. I just don't know where it's going to lie yet. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to line this up along the edges so that I know exactly how long it needs to be. Maybe I can get this a little closer. This is just an estimate. Of course, I will use a little bit more than I need so that I don't come up short. Let's do the halfway point and then double it, because I can't get to that other side right now. So I'm just taking this up the frame. I'm trying to follow it as closely as possible. Taking it to the halfway point here and doubling it. So this has got, the welt is at the very tail end of this. It's going to get cut right here. So the welt is going to be at the very tail end. So let's see where that ends up when we put it on. I may be able to, well, I don't know if that's going to bend real well. No, I don't. Ooh. If I can get it to work well on one of these corners, it just might be too heavy in that area. Maybe not, though. I think I'll do that. That way I waste less material. So let's cut this off a little longer than we need it. Those are not great scissors. So now I can take this to the machine and we can add the rope to it. And if you have questions about that along the way, let me know. Okay, I So I have a really cool presser foot on my machine. My presser foot is a double welting foot. So it's got 2 channels in it, like curved channels for that rope to slide in. I'll show you what that looks like. Here's the welting rope I'm going to use. And this is 3/16 inch in diameter. So that's the size of the welting foot I have also. Each channel is 3/16 of an inch. So this is built to fit these ropes in it like this, side by side, so that I can do a double welt. I'm not doing a double welt today. I'm only doing a single welt, but it works for a single welt too because it keeps the welt very tight in that channel and it sews that stitch really tight along the edge of it. So this does all of the work for me. It guides it through that channel, it sews it tight next to the rope. There's not a lot that I have to do to control it outside of keep the fabric together, so I go a couple inches at a time. It's also, I can use it to sew regular stuff, so I very rarely remove this presser foot. It's usually on there all the time because I can use it for single welt, double welt, and regular sewing. So you'll usually always see that. So the way that this works is we take this rope, which I still have on the roll here, and I'll cut loose after I have what I need, and then I'm going to just fold the fabric in half right over top of it. The rope still fits in that channel just like I showed you, but now the fabric is over top of it. And what this is going to do is going to sew real tight into this, real tight into the fabric, real tight next to that rope. I also have black thread in here right now, and I really don't want that. So I'm going to change that out. The bottom thread will, it's not black, it's gray, I guess. The bottom thread will still be gray because I'm not going to change out the bobbin. You're really not going to see this stitch, but if you do see the stitch, I want the top stitch to be white so that it blends more. But it really doesn't matter what color thread you use in reality. If you're really good at covering up and getting your lines straight, then you should have no problem covering up any color stitch. I'm just going to thread this real quick. There is no one right way to thread this machine. These areas here, this area and this area and these areas are all tension areas. So these can be threaded differently depending on the tension you want on your machine. This machine is an industrial sewing machine. It's very heavy duty, but it also sews exactly like a domestic machine. So if you've used a domestic machine before and you're comfortable with it, you'll probably get very comfortable with this very quickly. That being said, the part you need to worry about this machine is that it'll sew through your bones. A domestic machine will too, but this one will really, really do it good. So you want to keep that in mind when you're putting your hands near. So I'm just going to thread this. This is my default way of threading it because I'm using similar material. Like I can't even remember the last time I didn't use velvet. Like I use velvet for everything. So this is typically the default way that I thread it. It works for most medium weight, heavy duty fabrics, but it doesn't work for lightweight fabrics. In fact, I wouldn't use this machine for lightweight fabrics because it could really chew it up. Plus the presser foot doesn't get down tight enough to hold it with a good grip. So it slips around when you're sewing. There's a lot of thread guides, and we can go over how to thread this in a different class. Today I'd like to get through putting on this welt and the Pli-Grip and the batting so that as soon as that fabric gets in, I can just start putting it on. Because I'm very excited about it. It came in on time yesterday, but you could see the print lines, and I was supposed to get 3 yards and I only got 1. So it wasn't enough to even try to use, but I'm very enthusiastic to receive the replacement. Okay, so now I don't need to do a back stitch for this because we're going to be cutting off the ends of this anyways. So I'm just going to run it through as is. The one thing I need to focus on is keeping these 2 edges of the fabric together at all times. So If you've ever rolled a cigarette in your lifetime, this will be familiar to you. I use this rolling motion to get the rope tight into the fold, and I'll hold my fingers on top to keep it there. But I just feed this into my presser foot a couple inches at a time. Velvet itself can be very slippery, although it's not face to face, so I don't anticipate to have too many issues. But it's thick, it's a high pile, and it doesn't sew evenly. So one part will slip under faster than the top part, and then it ends up not sewing as evenly as you'd like. So you have to be very conscious of velvet. Don't get too cocky. So you can't see the white thread, and on the back you can barely see that gray thread. But that's going to be facing the chair, so you shouldn't see that. So you don't have to pedal to the metal, sew this. You can do a couple inches at a time, but once you've grown confidence in sewing with your machine, don't be afraid to let that presser foot do all the work. That's what it is built to do, and that's why it costs so much to purchase it. So get comfortable with using the tools that make your job easier. Whenever I stop sewing, I like to try to make sure that my needle is down in my fabric. That's in case I accidentally lift my presser foot, because that pedal's right next to my knee. I won't lose my stitch. It'll stay put. It's also good for when you're sewing around a corner. You can pivot easier. I just have a little bit. I think we're about halfway done now. This machine has variable speeds. If I press on the pedal hard, my machine will go fast. If I press on it slow, I can make it go pretty slow. This is not as slow as I can make it go. But it also has a variable speed dial underneath the machine, so I can speed it up to go very fast. That was high speed where it was. I just sped it up very little. Like a little dial goes a long way. And then that's how fast I can. That's not even half speed. This is like just for showing you guys. I do not use my machine at this speed, even when I'm in high production mode. It's just too risky. But if you produce a lot of the same thing, I can see how that would make your job easier. It's already making me nervous. It feels like a chainsaw. Okay, let me slow it back down. Not all motors have variable speeds. We have another console here that's almost exactly the same machine. It's got a different motor, and it has variable speeds in the pedal, but not on the motor. I'm going to be coming up to the seam here in a minute, and I'll show you how I handle that when I get there. Put your questions and comments in the comments section. Make sure you're sharing this with your friends you think might be interested. And tap the screen as violently as possible until that little heart shows up and throws you a party when you get to the end of it. Because that is how my content goes through the For You page, and that's how people find my classes. That's how I run my business. So when you guys are doing that, you're doing a really great job supporting small business and helping to rebuild the upholstery industry, because I've taught close to 300 people now in the past year. So keep that in mind. If I'm just adjusting this a little bit at a time, I can control it. Don't trust that if you hold it together way far down the road that it's going to stay that way. You have to be diligent about keeping it there, because sometimes it could jump the track. Sometimes that needle will start sewing through the rope, or sometimes the rope will push away from the edge. It's not as easy as it looks, even sometimes with the right tools. Okay, we're coming up to that fold. Let me get everything on the table a little bit further. Okay, so this is our seam. This is where we sewed it together. And before we close it up, we don't want to sew it together like this, because you'll see that bulk. You'll see that it's bulgy there. We want to open that up as flat as we can get it, so it sews as flat as we can get it. And then we're still lining these up. Now you can't even see, you can barely even see that seam with the rope in it. finish this off and I can show you. Look at that. Beautiful. You can't tell in the profile that it's been folded at all. Looks good. So whenever I take this out of my machine, my needle has to be up all the way in order for that to disengage from the bobbin. And then I never cut my string pulled tight because then it snaps back. It can get caught in the bobbin and it can come unthreaded on your machine. So that's it. This is the welt that we just made. We're going to put that seam right in the corner of that arm. It looks so pretty, so satisfying. This is the back where we have the visible bobbin thread. We're going to put that facing the chair so you can't see it for sure at all. And then it's still barely visible. You can barely see it. So I'm happy with how that turned out. Okay, now we're going to take this to the chair. Let's see when this phone is at. So happy to see you. It's a Wednesday surprise. Yes, it is. It's because I'm obsessed with this chair right now, and I can't stop thinking about it. So I just want to keep my hands on it if I can. Hey, Tim.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Okay. Here's the test. So remember I said I wanted to start with my seam. Actually, I'm going to flip this around so I can see you guys see me. Okay, so I want to try and do this so that the seam is right here in the corner. And in order to do that, I'm going to need to make a relief cut first. Let me go get my scissors. And I'm going to bring you guys a little bit closer so that you can see. Okay, where to go? So this is where I want to put that seam so that it is a little less inconspicuous, I think, or maybe here? That might be too far. Well, no, that's not far enough. It might be more conspicuous on the corner there. I think so. I think so. All right. I think I'm going to let Jesus take the wheel on this, and I'm going to fold it in half so that I make sure I have the same amount of fabric coming out of both sides. And then we're going to get this party started in the back in the middle of the chair. So this is the halfway point. And we are going to start attaching this to the chair from the middle. So what you're about to see is me attaching the welt to the chair before we attach the Pli-Grip around so that we can attach this final panel of fabric. So we're starting with the middle of this so that I can make sure that I have the same amount of material that I'm going to end up with on both sides, because I don't want to come up short on one end if I leave too much extra. And I made sure that I have more than I need. So there's that. Okay, so let's turn this chair around. Good. And now we can get this up high so you can see what I'm doing up this way. And this is where we're going to start attaching it. For right this second, I'm going to hold it there with a pin because I want my welt to be flush with the top of this. Sometimes I like the welt to be just over the top of it, but I really want to clean up this profile. So I want my welt to be flush with the top of the frame here. And that's not the foam. That's the actual wood part of the frame. So that's where it's sticking. I just want to make sure that I have enough of this to go around both sides. Okay, that looks good. Before I start stapling it. So that's what we're gonna do now. Make sure I got my staples. Okay, so we're going to wrap this well all the way around the edges of this chair, and it is going to frame in the back panel. Now I'm using Pli-Grip to attach the back panel, but this is a really good trim to use if you are finding yourself needing to hand sew the back panel. If you don't have Pli-Grip, it becomes real difficult to do curves like this. So if you're hand stitching the back panel, welt is a really good thing to add because you can hide your stitch right inside the welt, which is good. So I also know we said we were going to put the gray towards the chair, and you won't be able to see it because the whole stitch is being covered by the chair itself, right up to the frame. So when I put my staples in here, I'm putting them in diagonal, just like this. And you can use a temporary staple, which is instead of pushing it flat, you can tip it up this way and staple, and it'll leave a little gap in there. So you can always come back in here and take that out real easily without damaging the fabric. So if you're doing this for the first time, I suggest use temporary staples for your first couple staples so you get everything moved around, and then you can come back through and fill in the gaps. You do not, I repeat, you do not need a million staples in this layer. You're gonna put a lot more staples in on top of this. We just need this to hold still, we just need it to look clean. So I started this right here. Let me make sure. From this point, I'm actually gonna stretch it to this corner over here. Right here. The reason why I do that is because I want this to be a nice, tight, clean line, and the tighter this is, the cleaner the line is going to be. So I'm just going to stretch it, and then I'm going to line it here real close to the corner, but not all the way there. Get this in place. Pull it kind of tight until it gives a little stretch, and put another diagonal staple. Remember, I'm doing this flush with the frame. Here you can see it's a little bit lower, but now I can come back and pull this into place. And I can check to make sure that line stays straight. Before I do another staple over there, I'm gonna come this way and do it in the same direction because I'm looking for symmetry. We're gonna pull it this way and do it in this direction because I'm looking for symmetry, and I wanna make sure that that line stays clean and straight all the way across before I go and put 400 staples in it. When I put my staple in diagonal, it's going to flatten out this area so that when I put my back panel on, it's nice and clean and crisp. So it's really important to not bulk up these areas or to misshape them or whatever. You want to keep them as straight as possible. So from this staple to this corner, I'm making sure that my welt is flush where it's supposed to go at the top of the frame. And another diagonal staple. I'm going to step back, take a look-see. This is why it's also important to have the same resistance pulled up here, because sometimes your foam can be lumpy and it can affect the way that that looks. So I'm just going to pull all of this into place all the way across. I'm more concerned about it being visually straight than I am for it to be like perfect, but that looks good. So now I can come through here and fill in the gaps. I don't need 100 staples on this layer. I just need it to hold still. So I'm just going to put 2 more there, and that's the end of that. So no more staples on this. This is enough staples. Your future upholsterer who redoes your chair will thank you for it. All right, I'm going to check these questions real quick. Oh my God, she looks so great. Thank you so much. I worked really hard on this after I got off you guys yesterday because I wanted to make sure that I could do the pattern thing I wanted to do without you guys looking so that I didn't mess it up. And I did have a couple of mess ups, so I'm really glad I did it. So when we do the second chair, you guys will be able to watch that. And it's gonna look flawless. Maybe, probably not. It's hard. I had to leave the live early yesterday. The blue is phenomenal. Thank you so much. The peony print is beautiful. I agree. Thank you so much. Just from Spoonflower from Studio Q. Her name is Nikki Quartermain, and she is an amazing designer. Is the welt just decorative or does it serve a purpose? It serves a purpose. It is also just decorative sometimes. In here, it's serving the purpose of separating the two panels of fabric. This is the print that's going on the back. So in this case, it is a frame. But it also can be really helpful if you're hand stitching the back panels on. It will hide your stitch in there. Also can sometimes be glued into places to cover up nails too. So it's a utility, it's functional, and it's beautiful. And you can do it any way you want. This is a 3/16 inch welt, but you can make them teeny tiny, you can make them big and chunky, whatever you want. You're so welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I'm going to finish doing this. I'm going to try and move this camera around so you guys can watch the whole process. So now we'll come over to this side. And now I need to bring this down at a 90-degree angle and around this way. The problem with bringing it down a 90-degree angle is that I have to make a relief cut so this will bend at a 90-degree angle nice and cleanly, and I can get rid of this bulky part of the fabric. So what I'm first going to do is cut a 45-degree angle right for the corner of this frame where it needs to bend. I'm going to do that in both directions so that I can get rid of that chunk of fabric. And then now I can bend this and they don't like overlap as much, but they still do overlap, so we're going to take that out a little bit more and be careful not to cross your seam because you don't want your welt to come unraveled, although it will be getting stapled, so it's probably going to be fine. So now when I fold that over and I'm flush with the frame on this side, there's no overlap of this fabric, so it stays nice and flat and clean for when I put my back panel on there. And that's the goal. Clean lines is the goal. So a couple staples there will hold that. I also want to put like an anchoring staple here. Sometimes if I pull tight here, you can see that corner comes down and it makes it look like it's sticking out and sad. I sometimes will even come in here with a staple right up in the corner to make sure that that doesn't move. So then I want to make sure that my welt face is flush with the edge of the wood frame. And I'm going to get a couple staples up here closer to anchor it down. Then I'm going to do the same thing that I did on the back and just pull this down and stretch. I'm not really worried about what's going on here yet, but I need to find the edge of the foam right before it bends. And put a staple there. Not the foam, sorry, the frame is what it's holding onto. And then it's going to need another relief cut to bend this way because you can see the fabric buckles right there. So that will buckle up and stick out on the back of your frame. You're going to need one or more relief cuts, which this is just a snip right up to the stitch, almost right to the stitch. And then it can curve beautifully and this material stays flat on the back. I do not like this extra fabric being there, so I'm going to trim that off before I get too far here. Good. So then this is going to come around this way, and I'm not getting any creases in my welt here, so not cutting it on the bias has zero impact on how that turns out. So I'm still, this is my frame, I can feel the edge of it. The face of my welt is flush with my frame. Sometimes you'll want, sometimes you'll want this welt to sort of like rest on top of your frame when you want it to be sticky outy, but I don't want it to be sticky outy. I want a clean line. So I'm dropping a couple here to anchor this point down, but now I can fill in the gaps of these staples. So I will bring this edge out in the middle, right to the edge of the frame, and then I can see this line. Looks nice and straight. So if this line doesn't look straight, if it goes wavy like this, you're going to see that, especially in pictures because it's a high contrast. So you want to make sure that that is visually as straight as possible, and then you don't have to put a million staples in, you just have to hold it down. And I want all of this area to be flat, so I'm going to put a couple more staples in there. I'm getting around the arm here. I'm going to lower this. and maybe get a little bit closer. If you guys have questions about what I'm doing, feel free to put them in the comment section, and I will look back and forth to try and answer them for you as I go. So now, join late. Did you cut the welt on the bias or just straight across? Which width did you cut? We did not cut on the bias. We cut it straight across, and that's because this is velvet, and when velvet goes together in two different naps, it actually looks like two different colors. So for the purposes of making this look like one continuous piece of fabric, we did not cut it on the bias. But I do sometimes cut on the bias. When you cut it on the bias, it's at its stretchiest point in the fabric, so you can take it around curves like this without there being any wrinkling in the welt. But there was no wrinkling in the welt on this either, so we're doing real great. Is that blue the final fabric on front? It is. This is what we did yesterday. So this is the final fabric, and I'll bring over the back panel so you can see. So if you're just joining, this is the fabric that's going to go on the back with this welt. I'm pretty excited. So I have it stapled here, and I'm going to stretch it to the next point right here, to this very corner. I do want to keep my welt flush with the frame up here, but I'm not going to put any staples here yet. I'm going to put one staple here in the corner before it turns. And these are all diagonal staples. And the reason why I'm putting them all in diagonally is that they actually will hold this flatter from top to bottom. If I put them in straight, this might pop up, and then you might see that underneath your back panel of fabric. So we want this to be as flat as possible. I learned that from the Funky Little Chair, who is a really great upholsterer who no longer does this, but she had great tutorials who are now, I think her tutorials are with the Woodroom channel, so you can still find them, but she's incredible. So now I have that, and now this material needs to bend down at a 90-degree angle this way. I'll get closer so you can see. And then you'll see that there's a ton of bulk right here. If I leave that there, it's going to show up on my back panel, so I don't want that there. But I also, if I just snip it in the middle as a relief cut, some of it's going to go down and the other part's going to go down. You still have a ton there. So what I do is I actually cut a 45-degree angle to that point where that relief cut needs to be. And I do the same thing. It's actually a little more than a 45-degree angle, if I'm going to be honest, because you don't want these to touch. And then I turn it in the direction I need it to go, and then you'll start to see that it's not overlapping as much. So I want to get rid of more of that so it doesn't overlap at all. And bend it back down. So to keep this corner sharp, I might come in right at the seam and put a staple in straight up and down this way and straight up and down that way. And that way when I pull this way, it's less likely to pull that little dip down, and it stays up there nice and sharp. I'm going to put one a little closer. And so this continues down all the way straight under the chair. And these don't overlap at all, so this stayed nice and flat. I see a lot of people sending me a lot of likes, and I really appreciate it. So when you are here and you... Oh, someone said what's wrong. Oh, hold on. I'll mention what's wrong with fabric in a second. If you're here and you're learning something, you're enjoying being here and hanging out with me, all I ask is that you tap the screen whenever I remind you to and send me some likes. When you send me likes, it sends my stuff out through the For You page, and that's how people find me, and that's how I run my business. So, you mentioned there is something wrong with the back fabric. You're waiting for more to be delivered. What's wrong with the fabric? I'm so glad you asked. Let's see. Let's investigate. First of all, I'm not complaining about Spoonflower because their customer service has been amazing. They were very apologetic and ready to fix the problem. The designer was ready to fix the problem. So I'm really excited because this feels like really good high quality fabric, and it's really soft and it's really striking, and I love it. It's just not what I expected, and it wasn't enough. So I ordered 3 yards and I got 1 yard. just a little over a yard. And then I'll get closer so you can see, but you can see print lines in the fabric. I don't know if I'll be able to show it, but so this fabric is printed with like a printer, like you print paper, only special fabric dyes to do that. And then this has lines, stripes all the way through. This is just supposed to be a solid color, and there's stripes that go all the way through. I'm going to see if I can flip this around and show you guys close up. I don't know if it translates on camera. It did in the pictures. Oh yeah, you can see it. So it just kind of looks like static television with these like stripes on top. And I really want these to be like a higher end chair. So I don't want to compromise on the design, although it still looks lovely. And some people might even assume that those stripes are supposed to be there, but they do go through the flowers too, which are less noticeable. But I just didn't, it wasn't what I was expecting, and I spent $200 for 3 yards of fabric, and I really just was so excited to get it in time, and it did not work out. But that's okay, they're making it right, and I'm pretty excited. I got 6 chairs I gotta fix, and this is awesome to see. Well, I'm so glad that you're here and that you're learning and that you're enjoying hanging out here. If you could, please just tap the screen while you're here. You're welcome to give me gifts, but I get fractions of the pennies for those gifts. So would you guys send the likes? It's actually way more valuable to me because people buy classes, and then I am able to continue being a teacher for a living. So if you tap the screen while you're here, whenever I remind you, just tap it as violently as possible. A little heart shows up in the upper left-hand corner, and it will race its way to the end, and when it gets to the end, it throws you a party. So tap the screen until you get one of those, and that really will help me out a lot. How is the company fixing it? Another pattern or reprint? They're reprinting the whole order. So they're making sure that they print the 3 yards that I originally ordered, and then they're printing it. They're going to check the calibration on their printer. They were very apologetic. They said stuff typically doesn't leave the shop looking like that. So they were very apologetic and very open to replacing my order. So far, working with Spoonflower, I'm still in. I've seen a lot of my friends order from Spoonflower and be very happy with their stuff. So I didn't think that I would have any trouble going back to them. I was just really bummed out that I couldn't like get to work on it right away, because that's what I was thinking about. So that's where we're at with that fabric. So we finished this corner up here. Now we're going to pull this straight down. I'm pulling kind of tight. It needs to stay flush with the arm here, and it's going to get stapled down to the bottom of the chair on this side. All my back panel fabric is going to go from this welt this way, so this needs to just make a continuous straight line down. That being said, I don't want my rope to wrap underneath my chair because that leaves a big bulky bump, and I still have to run welt along the bottom. So to debulk this area, I'm going to first remove the length of this, because I don't need that much. I don't need that much, but this is easier to work with. And then I'm going to unstitch it right up to the edge of that frame. So I'm going to take out these stitches. I'm going to stop right about here. And I just use scissors to do that. It's pointless for me to try and have a seam ripper with upholstery thread, because upholstery thread is so thick and it makes them dull so quickly. So I usually use razor blades or scissors to rip my seams. Scissors work just fine for me. These are pretty sharp. Flush with the frame. I'm pulling it pretty tight, and I might even cut it just shy of the frame, just so it doesn't wrap under. And then I can close this back up, align this, how it goes, pull kind of tight, and then wrap this under and put another staple. So now that welt ends right here, so you guys can see how cool that looks. It ends there nice and flat. So when I go to put my other welt on the side of it, it's not going to stick out or bulk out in that area or change the shape in any way. So now I need to finish the staples here. And to do that, I just want to make sure that this is going to stay in line with the frame like I wanted it. So I'm going to put one up here, because that's starting to become unruly. One at the bottom. These are all diagonal staples. And I can put a couple in the top. Now this does not, you don't need a bajillion staples. You just need a few. this little area here will need to be hand stitched after everything's done. I do all my hand stitching last, and usually I have to hand stitch anywhere where like a seam had to get undone, which is right here. Or sometimes the corners of the chairs up here will need them too. This one didn't. So we still have the other side of this to do. So if you missed me putting this on the chair, you can watch me do it to the other side. Oh, that's way better lighting than before. Okay, let's see. I'd like to know how to reupholster a wingback. Wingbacks are the best thing to learn as a first project, and I will say that to my dying day. They're pretty easy to do, although there's a lot of work to them. It will take you a long time, but they're fairly easy skills to accomplish. And anything you learn on a wingback, you can apply to just about any other piece of fabric. And you can do debutton tufting on a wingback, you can do welting on a wingback, you can do removable cushions, non-removable cushions. You could do a whole wingback without even knowing how to sew or having to sew one stitch. So it's a really cool first project to do. I highly suggest it. I teach in-person workshops here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. You can come visit me, or I do virtual upholstery workshops too, both group classes where up to 6 people can join and bring their own project, or I do private upholstery lessons too if you're looking for a more hands-on experience. They do look difficult, but I promise you it's all wrap and staple. You're cutting rectangles, you're wrapping it, and you're stapling it on. It really is that simple. It's just practice getting all the fabric on right. What if we only have a very basic sewing machine? That's fine. You don't even need a sewing machine. You can use a needle and thread if you want, although it will take a lot longer to work on your projects that way. Basic sewing machines are fine. You can use them. A couple of things. It's hard to use upholstery thread in a regular domestic sewing machine, and regular thread is not strong enough for upholstery. It will wear and tear your machine much faster because they're not built for heavy-duty fabrics. So medium to heavyweight fabrics are really, they put a lot of wear and tear on your machine. But you don't need an industrial machine to do this. My first machine for the first couple of years was an old antique Singer. Any old all metal machine can handle upholstery fabric, and you can find those for free everywhere. I got mine for $9 at a rummage sale. They are workhorses. They still make the parts the same exact way, so they can be easily serviced just like any other machine. It's not more expensive, even though they're antiques. It doesn't cost any more money to maintain them. So I highly suggest an old metal antique machine. Best airport to fly in for workshops. Best airport to fly in for my workshops is going to be Detroit Metro Airport. It's about 30 minutes away from here, a 30-minute drive, so you can take an Uber back or you can rent a car. I'm sure they have rental cars here. But it's about a 30-minute drive from there to there. If you land in Detroit, though, or if you land at Detroit Metro, you're just as far away from Discount Fabric Outlet as you are from Ann Arbor, so you might as well just go out to there and save some money on fabric while you're here. Generally speaking, is 7 yards of fabric needed to cover a wingback? So generally speaking, 7 yards of fabric probably is not. It might be cutting it close. Usually 8 to 10 yards is what I estimate for a wingback, depending on the type of fabric you use. If you use a pattern, you're going to use way more. You may be 12 to 15 yards of fabric. So it all depends on the measurements of your piece, and it all depends on the type of fabric that you're using for it. If we come from out of town for a class, do you have projects to work on? Yes, I do have stuff here that you can work on. I have a handful of chairs that are the standard chairs that I use so that you can do springs on, you can do deep button tufting, you can do just about any skill on it. But I do have a collection of cool stuff too, and if we got together in advance, we might be able to work out something for you to work on one of the cool pieces that I have in storage. But I have a 30-foot by 40-foot storage unit full of furniture that I don't need. Great advice, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, thank you guys so much for joining me. We're going to finish doing the welt on this side of the chair. If you have questions as we do this, please put them in the comments. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery workshops here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I do in-person upholstery workshops here at my local makerspace. I don't have my own workshop. I reserve this space to teach my classes and to work on my own projects, but I pay a monthly membership fee to have access to this 14,000 square foot warehouse full of the best tools that you've ever seen in your whole entire life. If you've never heard of a makerspace before, they're all over the United States. It's not a franchise, it's more of just like a creative idea that a lot of people follow. It's basically like a gym membership, but for tools. So you can come in here, use the wood shop, use the metal shop. There's CNCs in every room of the shop. They've got embroidery machines, sewing machines, anything you could potentially need to make something is here. And they have places like this all over the United States. Last year I did weekend retreats here in my town where you could come here, stay for the weekend, and take these classes with me, and it was like 4 days of upholstery here at my makerspace. This year I'm actually going to be looking for makerspaces all over the United States interested in bringing me in to teach these weekend classes. I'm hoping that cut the price at least in half from what we did last year, was $1,600 for people to come, and I'm hoping to make it as accessible to as many people as possible. So if you want to learn upholstery, you have a makerspace near you, contact them, let them know that you want to do it. If they don't teach it already, you can send them to the link in my bio that says weekend upholstery camps. If you are the one who connects me with the makerspace and I can confirm that on their end and I end up coming out there, you will get to attend that weekend upholstery camp for free with me. So it's well worth the reach out. If you're looking for a makerspace near you, I would love to come out there and just give you guys as much information as possible. Jessica says jam-packed full of information. I try. So I usually come on here live once a week. This is a treat for you guys today that I'm actually here on a Wednesday because I can't stop thinking about this chair. So I want to get through to where we can get the back panel fabric on as soon as it arrives. So need info to go to your seminar. Thank you so much, Yvonne. You can go to the link in my bio and you'll see information about my in-person classes, my virtual workshops, my private workshops, my private upholstery group on Facebook that you can join for free, and you can post questions at any time and tag me and I'll answer them. There's lots of info there right in my bio. Hi, Gabriel. It's good to see ya. Okay, so we're finishing up this welt here. Let's get this at an angle you can see it. First, we got to turn this corner at a 90-degree angle. We can bend the welt that way, but you can see that it creates this fold of fabric, which creates a bulky area on the back of our chair, which you will be able to see when you put your back panel on there. So we need to get rid of that first. So I'm going to put a staple right in the very corner here to lock it down in the corner. And then I'm going to cut this at a 45-degree angle here, and maybe a little more than a 45-degree angle on this side, because I want this to turn without these overlapping in this area. I want them to be nice and flat. Let me see if I can get this closer. So now, when I fold this into the corner nice and sharp, those materials don't overlap at all. So I want to lock a staple right up in the corner on the seam to make that a sharp turn. And right up in the corner on the seam here. It also locks it down so when I pull this down, it doesn't move. That's the general idea behind it. And add a couple more. So now when I pull this corner doesn't flip down and start to become sad. So I'm going to make this part of the welt flush with the frame. Let me see if we can. So this is the face of the frame. I can feel the wood. The foam comes out much further, but I can feel the wood edge. And I want the face of my welt to be flush with that wood edge. That's not always the case. Sometimes you can put it right on the outside of it, and then you can see the profile of this welt. I don't want to be able to see the profile. I don't want that sticking out. So I'm just going to make it flush with the face of the frame there. I put all my staples in at a diagonal angle, and that's to help hold this area flat. So you can see that maybe better from this angle. So those are at a diagonal angle. So keeping this flush with the front, I'm just running it down, and I'm actually going to put a staple down here first. I'm stretching this so that it pulls nice and tight so I get a nice straight line, and then I can drop a staple there. Now I can move this into place to align with that frame. I can take a step back to make sure that that looks straight, because it's more important to me that it looks straight and symmetrical on both sides. So I'm checking the other side too. Looks good. And now I've got to get it to come around this corner. But if I were to wrap it around that arm corner right now, you can see this material bulks up here that will stick out on your back piece. So you do have to make relief cuts to get it to go around. And I just do that like every ½ inch. I make a snip in the welt up almost all the way up to that stitch. You don't want to cross the stitch though, because that can unravel it. So once I have that into place, I'm finding this curved edge so that I can match my material to it. And that's still going up there, so it needs just another relief cut. There we go. So now I can follow this edge up, and it's a nice clean turn. But this staple right here is a little bit too far down. So I'm going to take it out and replace it a little bit further up. Pliers work better than your fingers on this. And I'm gonna move this staple up a little bit higher so I have more room to flex this. And then I can gradually go around this corner. To make sure to keep that welt nice and straight. Good. I keep my staples diagonal when I can because it helps flatten out this area, which helps keep it nice and clean when you go to put your back panel on. So from this angle, I'm actually taking this all the way down to the front arm of the chair, right in this corner, and I'm going to drop my next staple there. And wouldn't you know it, that seam line's right up in that corner of the arm.
How's it going?
Hi there.
All right, good.
Good, how are you? Okay, so we're tight from here to here. The line is looking straight, and now I can move it up into place, which is flush with the top of the welt, flush with the top of the wood part of the frame. Now there's foam on top of that, but I can feel the hard edge, and that's what you're looking for, is feeling that hard edge and making sure everything is nice and flush. And then I'm just going to come back through with some diagonal staples so it doesn't move. You don't need 100 billion staples at this point. Just a couple is fine. We're going to put a ton more in here, and the next upholsterer would appreciate it if you did not. So we're going to do that 90-degree angle again here at the front. Let me get this down. Okay, so up here on the corner of the arm, we want to take this at a 90-degree angle this way, but we need to get rid of all of this bulk. So the first thing we do is cut up at a 45-degree angle. It's flush with that staple that I already put there. And then we can bend it on this side to see how much material comes up there. And if you need, you can just follow that guide to trim that back. But I cut that before I even bend it. And I'll show you how. I just gotta walk around this phone. Take it to the other side. So now I can take from this side and cut to that same point so that we can remove that bulk before we fold it. And then we fold it, and it's still pretty close up here, so we can remove a little bit more without crossing that seam there. And now that's a nice flat area. So I can use staples to flatten it further and to get it sharp up into that corner. I'm going to come back in this way. I think I can remove. Yeah. That's much better. So I'm gonna put this right in the corner to keep that area sharp here. And I'm gonna do the same thing up there. It's sticking out a little here, so I'm gonna have to hammer that down. And then I just pull this straight down along the straight edge of this arm, and it's gonna get stapled down here to the frame, but I don't need all of this extra material. I can take it off, and I don't want my rope to wrap under the chair because it creates a bump right here, and it will make this look lumpy when I come back through here with another welt. So I only need enough of this to flip under the chair so I can cut it short. Then I'm gonna open up this stitch right to just above where this frame is so that I can cut the rope out of where it would be going under the frame. So I use scissors to unstitch because upholstery thread is thick and it makes seam rippers go dull, but you can use whatever you want. So I'm pulling it again, making sure I have this open up enough. And then I'm going to take and snip my rope, not flush with the bottom of the frame, but just above it so that it doesn't travel. Because I do give this a little tug and stretch it. And then line this back up with the front again, pull straight down, and anchor it at the bottom. So I only put a staple up here, and I put a staple down here, and now I can line this up with the front and make sure that that line stays visually straight. Beautiful. That looks great. And so all of these corner areas now are smooth, except for this one where the staple is sticking out. So I'm going to get my hammer. And I'm just going to hammer that back. Now that looks nice and clean. I'm going to take you guys for a spin around the whole perimeter of it because it looks so cool on top. Oh, well, yeah, that was a good choice, you guys. I'm going to put a staple back too. Okay, let's take a spin. I'm going to read back questions real quick. So much love for a creator who gives their knowledge so freely. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do charge if you want to come here and hang out with me. I charge too. But if you can catch me here live, you can certainly learn for free. I love that staple gun. Thank you. This is a... Listen, I've never heard it said out loud. I don't know how to say it. It's either B-A, B-A, or B-E-A. I don't really know how it's said. But I've had this for 8 years now. It wasn't my first staple gun. This is a $400 gun. But they do have these that are around $100 that work just fine. Your hair is looking extra awesome today. I'm sure yours is too, Kate. Stop giving me the vapors. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. If you guys see Kate Culp here in the comments, go and follow her. She does auto upholstery, and it's some of the most incredible work I've ever seen. And you definitely gonna. She does it for good too. She does it to educate children. So check that out and make sure you follow her. So we have the welt on. We're gonna flip this around so we can check and see how we did. You guys tell me if you see any mistakes. I just want you to see it from the top. How that looks. So this is how everything will look from the front. This is how it goes around. Looking really good. And it looks symmetrical on both sides. Beautiful lines on the top. Beautiful lines on the side. Corners are looking pretty nice. You guys tell me what you think. A lot of big fans of Kate in here. I knew there would be because she's incredible. She's absolutely incredible. So the next step is we're actually going to be putting some Pli-Grip around the welt. And I'm going to show you what that is. Okay guys, this is it. This is Pli-Grip. This is what we're going to use to hold the fabric on the outside panel of this. This is the fabric that's going on the outside panel of this. So we have a beautiful patterned back fabric that I ordered from Spoonflower, from the designer Nikki from Studio Q. She did a really great job designing this. This is what we're going to use for the back. So to attach that to the back, and I'm hoping we can do it in one piece so there's no seams, we're going to use this Pli-Grip. The way that this works is the Pli-Grip gets attached to the chair. These teeth will close down, and then you tuck the fabric inside these teeth, cut off the extra, hammer it down, and it looks like it's sewn there, which is really, really cool. Gabrielle says, that's going to look so good. Thank you so much. I agree. I'm really excited about it. I was disappointed because the fabric came in yesterday right in time to be on my live, but the print was not great. You could see the printing stripes on it, so I had to send it back. So the way that this Pli-Grip is applied is it's stapled through these holes, or nailed if you're using upholstery tacks, and attached to the frame. This flat edge is going to ride right into this seam of this welt to keep that line nice and straight, and then these teeth will close in on it. This line is your line to straighten out to make sure it's straight. If these are not aligned in a straight line, if they are aligned anywhere near crooked, that is how that line is going to look when you tuck your fabric in it. So you want to be sure to take your time and make sure that you can get a nice straight line. Hey,
is there a screwdriver in here by any chance?
I have screwdrivers, but I've not used anyone else's screwdrivers. But I have some you can use.
So I'm looking for it.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have anybody else's, but I have some if you need them.
Now, someone said there was an activity in here over the weekend, so they might have left it in here.
Oh, the robot people are usually here. I would check like those tables and stuff that way. There might be something over there. So whenever I want to use Pli-Grip and I need to do this like sharp turn, I do this Pli-Grip in pieces because it doesn't bend 90-degree angles very well. So we use this because it's flexible and we can make a flexible line around our frame. I could easily use a straight tack strip for this, a cardboard tack strip for the top. I could easily use a straight one for the side, but the top back is where it's most necessary, because this is curved. It looks like a straight line, but it's actually curved like this. So this is called Pli-Grip, or Curvies, is going to help make that fabric straight over there. I'm also hoping to get this on in one piece stretched across the frame. So if I can get it on in one piece, I'm going to need Pli-Grip everywhere in order to be able to hold it. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to make strips of Pli-Grip. This is going to be one piece of Pli-Grip. Then the arm will be one piece of Pli-Grip. Then I'm going to do one piece of Pli-Grip that goes up the top, one that goes across the back, and of course, every straight line is going to have its own piece of Pli-Grip. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to get a pair of scissors I can use to cut this. You can use scissors or tin snips to cut this, but don't use your fabric scissors or you'll regret it. Scissors. So now I just kind of need to measure how much I'm going to need. When I start my Pli-Grip, I'm going to start at the bottom, but not all the way to the bottom. I don't want that sharp edge to compete with the sharp edge of this frame, and I don't want my fabric to tear on a sharp edge. So I'm just going to put it a little bit above. I'm also not going to go all the way up to this corner because I'm going to be able to manipulate that fabric much easier if I'm allowed to fold it on its own. So I'm just going to take it up to here. And when I start this, I'm also only going to take it just up to within a ½ inch. So I'm going to measure this out for this first part by just sort of holding it in place, deciding where I want it to end, and I think halfway through this one is good. And then I can use my scissors to cut that. You can use tin snips too. Definitely don't use fabric scissors. I can also, because I know I need 2 of these, I can measure that now. You can even count these little holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 and a half. There's my half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. cut that one, so now I have the one for the other side cut. I can also do that here. Scissors. That's for the top part. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So we're going to cut all these pieces we need first. Then we can just start stapling them on. So now we need to measure the back. That's the only piece left. And then you should definitely find a good home for the rest. This is the last of a roll for me, so I kind of just been tossing around. But they're very hard to store. It's kind of a pain in the butt. It says 50% of my live goal is completed. I don't remember starting one, but I appreciate your guys' help in that matter. I'm just going back through to look at comments real quick. I feel like I could injure myself with that stuff. You can. I call it death tape. So I call Pli-Grip death tape because I have injured myself with it. Do you use that in auto upholstery, Kate? I'm curious. I know that there's a lot of overlap, but there's so much more different skills that go into auto upholstery. What do you do if you run into an older piece and it's damaged from all the tacks it had in it? That's a really great question that we actually get all the time. Sometimes, like if you see holes because it had nails or tacks, they're like really big, it makes it very difficult to put staples in because staples are teeny tiny and they don't always go in those holes. Sometimes soaking it in water and letting it dry is enough to close up those holes. Sometimes you can put epoxy or wood hardener in it. That stuff does dry and crack and shrink over time, so it's not going to last very long if you do that. Sometimes you can staple in different places. So sometimes there's a lot of holes in the bottom part of the frame right here and you can't use it, so you might end up putting all of your staples in the top part of the frame and not doing springs because the springs would fall right out. So there's a lot of different ways that you can fix it if it has, but there is a finite number of times that you can upholster a piece of furniture, and the more holes you put in the wood, the more it's going to compromise the structure. So that was a really great question. Thanks for that. Okay, so now we're going to put our Pli-Grip here on the side first. The cool thing about having this welt, it's decorative, it's functional, it hides stitches if you need to hand stitch it, but it also provides that straight line that we need to align this up with. So as long as we are pushing this flat edge of the Pli-Grip right into that edge, that's exactly what our line is going to look like when we're done. So I'm going to... The staple's going around that one. It doesn't have a hole, but the staple will have to line right up in that hole in order for that to work. So if these lines of all of these teeth are not straight in the end, if they're crooked in any way, that line will be straight. If this line is back and you can see a stitch right there, you will see that stitch after you put your fabric in it. Because the way this works is when these teeth bend back and hammer flat, they line right up with that line. So this is where you get your lines straight for your outside fabric. If you know where your staple is coming out of the bottom, it makes it easier to line this up. But sometimes if it doesn't line up in that hole, it very rarely will it actually puncture through the aluminum on this. Most of the time it bounces out, but sometimes it will. But don't assume that it will, and you want to try to avoid it so that your staple can go in nice and solid. So I'm just pressing this flat edge right into that welt. And that actually will even push these teeth so tight up into that welt, when I take my regulator down, the welt will pull right on top of that seam. See, that went right through the metal, but it didn't go down all the way, and it's not going to hold. So I'm going to take it out and be careful not to bend up my Pli-Grip or the curvies. I'm going to get some pliers. That is so much easier than using cardboard tack strips. It is sometimes. Sometimes it makes more sense to use cardboard tack strips because you're just doing a straight line. And there's a lot of labor that goes into this. But it is way easier to use than you think it's going to be. And you shouldn't avoid using it because you're afraid of how it works. Because watch a couple videos, watch people do it, practice it on your own, and you'll get it for sure. Maker space, essentially a big space for crafts. Oh, someone asked a different question, I see. Did you say one can join a maker's club? Is this the correct name? Anyone can join a maker's space if you have one near you. I also have the local upholstery club that is free to join, so I'm not sure which one of those are you referring to. But if you have a maker space in your area, anyone can typically join. They're open to the public. You just have to pay membership fee or pay day passes to come in and use it. Everybody's rules are different. Definitely Google Makerspace in your city. I don't have my own workshop. I work completely out of my local makerspace. I've reserved this room today to work on with you guys. And I teach classes here a few days a week. So after you get like the first strip on, you want to close these up almost all the way. Like I'm pushing kind of down to the welt, but I'm not pinching them down close. But you'll see how that line lines right up with the edge of where we stapled it. So if this is crooked in any way, your line is going to be crooked too. But I'm confident that I can hide this line completely in that welt seam after I get it hammered down. So I have this one done. You'll see I left a little gap here. I left a little gap at the bottom. I'm also going to leave a little gap here. And I got my pre-cut piece. And it always has to be stapled this way. If you staple it this way, it's going to bend this way and you won't be able to put the fabric in. So always has to be flat edge into the seam. If this welt wasn't here, it would be flat edge against the edge of your frame, or you might even pick a spot slightly below that so that you can keep that straight. But again, that line with those teeth has to remain straight or else it's not going to look straight against it. So you don't have to use welt for this, but the welt does help to clean up the line. For me, it's building contrast between the two panels of fabric also. Some of these angles are harder than others. It's hard to get there with the phone in the way. You do have to put a staple in every single one. You don't want any one of these able to bend down or be loose. Sometimes if it's not holding super tight, you might want to put 2 staples in every single one on each side, like this. That will really hold it. But the upholsterer that does the work after you might be a little peeved that you went ahead and did that, because these are not easy to remove. Now again, if you're lining these up with your welt, and the teeth come down away from that stitch, let me see, and the teeth are down away from that stitch like they are here, you will see that stitch. So you want to make sure that the flat part of these teeth is lined right up in the ditch of that welt. And I'm just like really just pushing it up there. It becomes its own guide. Makes it a lot easier to keep that line straight. Curve ease, aka death tape. Yeah, that's what it's called. So this is called, it's either called Pli-Grip, curve ease, Curve EASE, like it's an easy curve, or I call it death tape because it's sharp and it hurts sometimes. So now I'm just sort of getting this lined up. I'm not taking this all the way around this corner because it will actually land with just like a very square, like bendy area here that's very hard to flex. So I am going to, I cut this short so it didn't go that far. First I want to see what it looks like to put just like one of its own teeth in that corner, because that's what I might do to bridge that gap. Otherwise, I might just leave it as a gap, and the fabric will clean itself up around there with the tension. So we'll see how that goes. So after you got them on, you want to close them up. One, so you don't snag them, and two, so when you go to put the fabric in, it actually it attaches to it. The teeth grab the fabric, and that's what holds it in. So you don't want to rake your hands on that, so you got to keep that out of the way. Let's see. This is for the other side. I just want to cut one set of teeth to see what it looks like if I just put one right there. And I don't know if it's going to be too much or not, so that's why we're checking it out. So here, I think that could work. I'm going to lop this little end piece off though, because I don't think we need that. But this tiny little piece will go a long way to making it really clean in that curvy spot. So don't be afraid to detach it. It doesn't have to be one continuous piece. You can get a lot cleaner lines if you break it up at the right areas. Look at that little dude. Cutie. Okay, so we've got the arms, that curve. What are those called? This is called Pli-Grip or Curve Ease, or I call it death tape. And this is how we're going to hold our fabric on the back panel, and it's going to make it look like it's sewn on there. Someone said, where are you located? I am located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I teach in-person workshops here at my local makerspace 4 days a week, but I also teach virtual upholstery workshops. So you can do my in-person online classes where you can join up to 5 other people and learn how to work through your own project right there in class. Oh, we didn't put any staples here. We gotta straighten it out. I was wondering why that looked kind of crooked. Get this straight. Now that's nailed down. So now we can put that piece that goes right here. I don't know if I cut 2 of these or not. This one, I did not cut 2 of these, and I did not cut 2 of the other arm. Oh well, we'll get them as we need them. Okay, so this is going to go here. And this is how we're going to apply it. I'll get closer. You guys can get a little bit better of an angle. So this flat edge has to line up right where this seam is. Got to hide right there in the well. You'll notice I didn't put a bajillion staples right here. I don't need a bajillion staples to keep that on. Check the community college in your area. Sometimes they offer them too. Definitely check them. And if you guys can find a makerspace near you interesting in hosting these classes, I am happy to come bring a weekend upholstery camp out your way. So give them a call and send them to the link in my bio. If you connect me with the makerspace and I end up coming out there, you can attend my weekend upholstery camp for free. So go to the link in my bio and you can see what those are all about. I always use cardboard strips for this. Cardboard tack strips are good for straight edges, not necessarily when you're going vertical up and down, but definitely when you're going horizontal to clean that up. This Curve Ease allows you to get around curves really easily, which you can't do as easily with tack strips, and you can't always do all 4 sides of tack strips. Here, I can put this Curve Ease around the whole perimeter and tuck my fabric into the whole thing. I don't have to sew it. I don't have to staple tack strips to it. I just have to tuck it into this Curve Ease. And because I want to put this whole back panel on in one big piece, I need Curve Ease all over all the sides of it. So this is not the right one for this. Where is my curve? I need to cut a new piece because I don't think we cut one for this side. I'm just going to line this up. I need it to go down this whole length. I'm leaving a gap at the top, and I'm going to leave a gap just before the bottom too. And I'm doing these in separate pieces so that they can get around these tight corners much easier. Because these work well on curves, but they don't work well on tight corners. So the staple goes through the hole and the flat end goes into the ditch of the welt. And if I know where the staple comes out, then I can line it up properly with the edge of the welt. If this is crooked when I staple it down, that's the shape of the line that the fabric is going to be when you apply it. So you want to make sure you're keeping that nice and straight. I will Google Makerspace in the Chicagoland area. I appreciate that. I would love to come to Chicago to see you. I can't wait to see the finished product. Me too. You're amazing. Thank you, Edwin. I appreciate you coming. Curvies, found them on Google. Fantastic. Curvies, Pli-Grip. You probably won't be able to find it if you Google death tape, for sure. Don't Google death tape. I looked up Makerspace last time I watched your live, but sadly there's none in my area. I'm so sorry to hear that. I have organized my in-person workshops here in Michigan to land on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So if you did come visit and you took one of the 4 class packages, which is buy 3 classes, get 1 free, that ends up being about $225. Then you can come and take a 4-day weekend with me, and you can, I can find a cool place for you to stay, like the Newton of Ypsilanti, and then you get a 4-day weekend for $225. My upholstery retreats were about $1,600 last year. We sold those out. It was a really good time. This year I want to try and keep it half as much because I want it to be more accessible to more people. Looks like I cut this a little short, so I am going to add an extra tooth there. Let me first push these down. And you'll notice that the edges of these teeth, they line right up with the edges that we just stapled down. That would be amazing. I'd love to make a trip with my partner one day. I'd love that. All my classes are buy 3, get 1 free, and they're also bring a friend free. So you could bring your partner to work on the same project for $225, and you guys would have a really good day. I'm new here. I would love to come. Designs by Alicia. I would love to have you. I have up to 6 people in my classes at any given time. So, and they fill up very quick. I've been teaching here at my Makerspace for a little over a year, and my classes usually sell out. So bring a friend free. Buy 3, get 1 free. If you're from out of town, you want to come to the weekend, you can buy a 4 class package for $225. Bring your partner for free, and then you can take 4 whole classes 4 days in a row. I'm located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Suze, what is that? Isn't the fabric supposed to go into the teeth? Yep, the fabric will pull this way and then tuck into the teeth this way, and then we'll cut off the excess and hammer this down. So it sort of holds it by resistance. It stretches out and then tucks in, and the resistance holds it. I'm in Georgia. I have friends in Georgia, Alicia. I had a student drive out here from Georgia for one of my last retreats. But if you have a makerspace near you, which I do believe Georgia has a lot of makerspaces, then you can call your local makerspace, ask them if they teach workshops. If they don't, you can send them to the weekend upholstery camp link in my bio. And if you are the one who connects me to that makerspace and I end up going out there, then you will be the one that gets to attend that weekend upholstery camp for free. That's the deal. So if you connect me to the local makerspace and I make the deal to come out there, you can come for free. So call your local makerspace and tell them you want me out there, and I will come and hang with you. So these overlap. That's no good. I don't want those to overlap again. I don't want that sharp little piece to poke a hole in my fabric. So I'm going to take this out. I might not be able to use these teeth again. I don't know if that damaged it. I damaged this one. I gotta use the teeth. Move that up a little bit higher so it doesn't overlap. There we go, that's much better. Okay, now we got that nice curve for that fabric to go into. When you guys see how the fabric goes into this, it's going to be magical. That's not going to happen today though. I feel real bad about it. New here too, what is a makerspace? I'm so glad you asked. Let me turn this around so you can see my face. Welcome to everybody joining. I'm glad that you're here. We have 200 people here. That's a lot for a Wednesday this time of day. My kids are out of school for an ice storm happening, so that's why I'm here hanging out. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery workshops. I'm teaching here for you for free today because I have a project that I'm working on. I typically can be found here every Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. going live working on whatever projects I'm on. So if you want to learn upholstery for free, you can join me here on Tuesdays, usually all day. But today I'm here because my kids are off of school. I can't stop thinking about this chair and I want to get it finished. So that's what we're here doing. So you can learn for free for me here. I teach in-person workshops here in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I also teach weekend upholstery retreats. This year we're taking them on the road and we're going to local maker spaces. This is my local maker space. This is just one room. This is called the common room, or not the common room, the conference room, but it's sort of a common classroom. Lots of different classes happen here. But I also use this space to teach my upholstery workshops and to work on my projects. My makerspace is like kind of having a gym membership, but for tools. So I pay a monthly fee that I can access the space when I want, and I can use the tools whenever I want. A lot of the tools, especially the big heavy-duty machinery, you need to take safety classes before they let you loose on them. But once you take safety class, they let you loose on them. If you don't have access to CNC routers or CNC plasma cutters or powder coating booths or 3D printers or laser cutters at home, makerspaces, that's what they're for. They have all these tools for you. You can come and use at your own convenience. So if it can be made, it can probably be made here. I have a membership here. I have all access membership, so I can come and go at any time of night. Your makerspace might have the same deal. I am going to makerspaces in the spring and summer this year to teach my weekend upholstery camp, so I'm trying to hook you up with your local makerspace, and you let them know that I want to come out there, and if you find a local makerspace willing to host me, then you're the one that contacted, you'll get to attend that weekend upholstery camp for free with me. So I'm encouraging everyone to reach out to their local maker spaces. Okay, let's finish doing this Pli-Grip so we can get at least this and the batting part done today. It's almost noon and I'm going to be hungry soon. Okay, so now we're going to put the Pli-Grip across the top here. Maybe you guys still want to be close so you can see how that's attached. I'll make it a little bit higher so you can maybe see it from a different angle. If you're just here, you're here for the first time, you're enjoying being here, you're learning something while you're here, what I ask is that you tap the screen as violently as possible whenever I remind you. When you guys are engaging in the comment section or you're tapping the screen to like the post, it shoots my content out to the For You page, shows people what it is that I do, and that's how I start my classes and workshops. Weird, my phone just made a weird noise. Oh, are you guys giving me prizes? Is that what the noise is? I thought my phone was on the fritz. Thank you for that. I do enjoy the gifts and prizes. I do want you to know that I get fractions of pennies from those. And that liking it, just tapping it and liking it is way more valuable because it drives more people to my page, and that's how I sell my classes. So if I remind you, if you could just tap, 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 there's a little pink heart that shows up in the upper left-hand corner of your screen that actually will throw you a party if you can get to the end of it. That's the goal. See who likes it the most. So again, I'm pushing these square flat edges up into the edge of my welt to keep that line nice and straight. Whatever direction that line goes in is the direction my fabric is going to go in. Because these teeth, when pushed together, line up with that same line. So keep that in mind. If it looks crooked, your fabric will look crooked. If you can see a stitch underneath it or on top of it, then you'll be able to see that stitch once your fabric is on. This stuff is sharp. You can cut yourself on it. It's not hard to use, but it is a pain in the ass to store. Some people say keeping it in a pizza box is the best way to store it. Oop, we need staples. I want to move you guys over to the other side because that's about where we are now. Thank you guys so much for joining and sending the hearts. I appreciate it. my goodness, I'm tripping on the phone. Okay, so let's finish up this ply grip on this corner, and then we're going to run a strip down the end, which I do not think we cut. That staple didn't go in all the way, so we'll go back through and hammer that down. Be careful not to hammer your teeth flat. If you're not able to get a hammer in there, then you're going to want to go in there and remove that staple. This one stapled in crooked to where I can see a gap here between the welt and the teeth, and that is a gap that I will see if I need it. And I don't want to see that gap, so I'm going to take the staple out, put it back, and staple it in again. Don't be afraid to take staples out and make it look right. It's not, you haven't gone too far. So this is a little long. I think maybe I swapped out some of these teeth. I just need to leave a little bit of gap there by the corner. And you don't want to like skip ahead a couple of teeth because you could leave like a bump in between. This really stretches it out as you go, which is why I work my way from one side to the other. That left it. Sometimes it moves, the impact of the staple moves it down, so you have to watch. Then you close these almost all the way closed so that you can tuck that fabric in that tiny little gap. And then these teeth catch the fabric and hold it into place. I won't be demonstrating that for you today because the fabric that we have for the back panel is not actually here yet. The ones that you've been seeing is what came in yesterday, but what ended up being misprinted, so I can't use it. All right, where did I stash my spare ply grip? There it is. Okay, so we didn't cut for this side, so I just need to measure that real quick, and sometimes it's worth straightening it out to make sure you have enough. And then we can start stapling them to this side. Checking for questions real quick. Okay, I don't think I've missed anything. All right, so now we're going to continue to apply this ply grip to this edge along this welt. This is called ply grip or curve ease. I call it death tape because it hurts. I'm just sort of straightening these up. These get kicked around and unraveled so much in this shop. It's amazing to me that they really hold up as well as they do. You don't want them to be damaged though when you use them. So again, the technique is to line these straight edges of the teeth up inside, right into the ditch of that seam, because that is where the seam of your fabric will be once you tuck it in and hammer it down. And if that line isn't straight, then your seam will not be straight. So keep it straight, which is what a welt works really good for. This is sort of gives you a handicap to make sure that that looks straight. If you get the welt on straight, then you can get these on pretty straight, pretty easily. And then we push these down. We don't want to rake our hands on them. We don't want to flatten those teeth. We want to protect them, so we close it. But also we need it to be like this in order to tuck the fabric in and for those teeth to grab onto the fabric. So I push it down almost all the way till it touches the welt. There's just a little gap in between. Let's put a tooth on the bottom here. keep this in one continuous piece is I'm afraid that these sharp edges are going to cut the material there. So this sort of just helps kind of guide it around without forcing it in any direction. Now we can do the arms. Do you use this only when you use the piping strip? No, there's a lot of different applications for Pli-Grip. So I'm using this Pli-Grip all over this chair today so that I can apply my fabric on the back panel in one piece. So I'll be able to stretch it over the back and tuck it into these teeth and hammer it down, and I'll be able to do that in one piece. Otherwise, I would be doing a panel here, a panel in the back, and a panel on the other side. I would use a cardboard tack strip for this line to clean up that line, pull it down. I would use a straight edge metal tack strip that looks like nails for this line, and this here would just be getting stapled there. When I put my back panel on, this area here would get a straight edge tack strip. And you don't have to use Welt for either of those options, but the Welt one here in this case is providing a contrast between the blue fabric and the material that's going on the back, which I'll show you. This is the material that's going on the back. So the Welt provides a stark contrast for that material for me, but it also helps me keep this a nice clean line. If I needed to hand stitch it here, I wouldn't need this curvies at all. I could just hand stitch it by hand and hide that stitch in the Welt. So it is functional, it's beautiful. There's a lot of different ways you would use Pli-Grip or Welt. Okay. I think I have this piece cut. Yes, okay. So we'll continue on. I gotta untangle that sealer. So this is just going to continue around this corner. Left a little gap. Keeping this line straight up into the Welt. Do not be afraid to experiment with this, but if you're pulling this stuff off of a chair, you cannot reuse it. These little teeth get flattened once you hammer it, and opening them up to use them again work hard with them, so they will likely just break off if you try to use them. Reuse them. Tack strips typically cannot be reused. If we get through this part in the batting today, I might move right on to making the pattern for the next chair if you guys want to stick around, but I might eat lunch first. Do you use this only when you use piping strip? I already answered that, and I think that that's it for now. So let's get this last little strip of Pli-Grip on, and then we're going to put the batting on. We'll measure the batting and put it on. Okay, so this is the last final edge of the batting. So, or not the batting, sorry, Pli-Grip. Before we put, so we're going to put this on. Before we put the batting on, we're going to put some burlap covering these sides to make sure that that stays nice and clean. I actually think I'm not going to use burlap. I'm going to use tack board, some chipboard, because that's going to help create like a more sculpted look, and that's what I want today. Misfire staple there that I have to go in and remove, but I'm going to get this in place first. And we're almost done. Close close those teeth up. All of them should be just about touching the welt. Perfect. And now we're going to put some chipboard on the back. Yay, I figured out how to screen mirror to my TV so I can see you better. Oh my gosh, you're watching me on TV. That's so cool. You're going to need to send me a picture of that. Welcome everybody joining for the first time or the multiple time. This is what we did today. We put this welt, we cut welt, measured welt, cut welt, put on the outside of this chair. We just finished putting Pli-Grip around, so now we're ready to put the rest of the material on the back of the chair. And now we have to put some chipboard on the back. I'm going to show you what chipboard is. So chipboard is just heavy-duty cardboard. It's about 1/8 of an inch thick. It's really heavy. Sounds like a thunderstorm. I'm going to put this, I'm going to cut 3 panels, one for the back, one for the sides. And this will cover up the back frame while creating a barrier surface to put my batting and fabric on. So you won't be able to push your hand through this. It's going to finish this curve through the frame for the back and for the sides. You do not need chipboard to do this. You can use like a heavy duty burlap, synthetic burlap or natural burlap, and that will create a good enough surface. But if you have this, this is going to help you create a much better sculpted surface. So we're going to measure for that, and then we're going to cut it on the table over here. So I need 3 panels, 2 for the sides. We're going to cut these as rectangles. This will cut the bottom part as a polygon, but we're going to cut these as rectangles, and then we're going to cut off the excess with a razor blade. So this is going to be the wrong end of the ruler. We need this to staple to this part of the frame and staple to here. I should have put this on before, but I forgot that I was using this. But it's going to be fine. So we've got about 16 inches wide to the highest point. Let me double check here. This is 10. This is almost 10. So I think we can do this at 9 inches for it to staple here into here. So 9 inches by 15. That's 2 of them at there. And then this is 22. We can do 22 by 22, I think. 22 by 22 and 9 by 15. That's what we're doing. So let's do that. I'm going to turn this around so I can see you see me. Cutting table. Questions? You're an excellent instructor. I really appreciate you saying so. I really enjoy teaching, and all of my students end up coming away with really great projects. So I appreciate you saying that. I enjoy it very much. So we need 2 pieces that are 9 by 15. Let me check the width on this. I just need 30, so that's good. That's 36 inches. So I can get 9 inches this way and 15 inches that way to conserve material. I always use my square to get nice square measurements. Never one of these. And I need a razor blade. A nice sharp razor blade too. And I'm going to put a piece of cardboard underneath this. This is a scrap piece of cardboard left here by a student. When I go to make a cut, I'll just put this right underneath it. I'm going to measure it without it though, because it's bulky. So I'm going to go 9 inches in this direction. I'm going to do one measurement on this far end. And my other measurement on this far end. I use a T-square is because, especially if you're using factory edges that are 90-degree angles, it lines everything up so that your measurement is the same on all sides. Because if I measure 9 inches from here and I tilted this in any direction, it's not going to be 9 inches down here. It's going to compound that measurement and it's not going to be precise. So this is the best way to get a precise measurement. So now I can take those 2 marks that I made and just connect the dots. And I can use my knife to cut that. This is not cut easily with scissors because it's kind of a heavy duty board. Before I cut it though, I'm going to mark 15 inches down both sides. So here on this side we can make a mark at 15 and another one at 30 because remember we need 2 pieces of this for the arms. I'm going to do the same thing at this side. One at 15, one at 30, and then I can connect these dots. Put them on the scrap cardboard so that I don't ruin this beautiful table made by one of the gentlemen who work here at this makerspace. And just flat down as I can and use it as a straight edge. This is not a great cutting board. Hold on. Another one of these. They don't cut all the way through, so I can still utilize this material after. I just really don't want to hurt my table. Okay, so now I can cut. I still use my straight edge to keep my lines straight because I'm not great cutting things straight. Let's move this so you can see it. I'm going to check these questions real quick. Let's have a closer look at those offset scissors. Oh, these ones. These are just Fiskars. You can get them from Joann's. I use them to cut stuff with glue on them, but they actually, when they're brand new, they're great fabric scissors, and they can be sharpened because you can take them apart. I use these are my fabric scissors. These are like $11 online, and they can be also sharpened. And they're great. They work a really long time. This is what I get for my students because we burn through a lot of scissors. But I can take them in once a week to my local Joann Fabrics, and there's a guy there that'll sharpen them for $10. I'm not good at holding things down anymore. I don't know how to do that. I'm down and being conservative. But I can bend it both ways and it'll pop right up. And I didn't even make it all the way down to the bottom of that. So that's good. So then I just need to trim. Now I have 2 arm pieces, and then I have to do the back panel, which I don't remember the measurements anymore. So let's go measure that. I'm just going to point you in that general direction. So 20 by 20 is the rectangle, but it does do a, oh, sorry, I forgot to move you guys. Okay, 22 by 22, good. I am going to do 20 by 20 because I want to go inside the lines of that fabric. I don't want it to overlap because I don't want it to bulk out. So I just double checked my measurements, and I'm glad I did because it's going to be a couple inches smaller. So then I can measure 22 by 22, or 20 by 20. I'm just going to mark 20 inches there, and we'll go a little estimated 20 inches down to make that other mark. and then I can connect these two dots this way. And then I make a 20-inch mark here, and one on this side, connect those two dots this way. And now I can cut that loop. Actually, so I measured, we're losing juice already. Let me get this plugged in. Phone's about to die, so I'm going to try and get it plugged in before I lose you guys. The battery's in yet. Charger. Woohoo! Okay, now I got you. Double check comments. Measure twice, got once. Good. I was good until math was involved. Hilarious. Same. This closer to a person. Sorry. Alright, so back of the top of the chair is 20 inches, but the bottom tapers down. And if this keeps going around, it's going to overlap the other side. So I want to get the taper taken care of. And I know that I measured while I was over there, that bottom taper goes down to 15 inches. So I can find the center of this, which I know to be 10 inches, and mark that at the bottom. Center. And then I can measure that 15 inches from the center here to go out. And half of 15 is 7.5. So I'm going to line my 7.5 inch mark up here, make a mark down here at 1, and make another mark at 15. Now I have measured my taper in the center, and I can make a line from this mark to the top corner, and this will cut that polygon that I need for it to fit the back of the chair properly. So if you're confident enough, you don't have to draw the line. You can actually just take the knife and do it. I'm not that confident. So I'm going to do the line first. And then cut. Bend it in the opposite direction, it snaps that thin little layer that we cut through. It still makes it pretty clean. Perfect. So now let's take all these pieces back to the chair. So we gotta move our plug with it. So give me just a minute. And here's the geometry. Remember all that math they told you in school you were going to need? As a career? This is it. This is the stuff. I'm waiting for my air compressor to go off before we go too far. If I didn't need the air juice to power my gun, I would turn it off. Is that a specific type of cardboard, or can you use old boxes? It is a specific type of cardboard, but if you're at home and you don't have access to chipboard, which is kind of hard to ship, although if you have a Uline or a Granger near you, you can probably walk in and get some. It is called chipboard, and it is like an 1/8-inch thick cardboard. It's real stiff. Creates a really great barrier for foam and material. But if all you have is cardboard boxes from home, anything really firm and stiff will work. Not like a really easy bendable one, and not like a really thick corrugated cardboard. Like diaper boxes are really great. TV boxes can be really great. Quilties the same way with math. Who knew? Teachers. Teachers knew. That's why they told us. Alright. I'm going to start attaching this while we go, but I'll go through the second piece to explain it. But this just needs to touch the frame here on either side, and it needs to sculpt this side and stay curved. So I'm going to start by stapling it in the corners on each side and then filling in a gap. I'm going to start in the middle, and then I'm going to go to the corners. Great. So now this very stiff cardboard has wrapped around this like curved edge and created a nice smooth sculpted finish for me to put my batting on the back. I put all my staples at a diagonal to hold that down flat. If you put them straight, that top cardboard might buckle forward and you'll be able to see that under. So we're going to do the other side, but I want to check the fit of the back too. If the back doesn't overlap, then I'm probably just going to put that on now and make my way to the other side. So this is what we cut this for. Oh great, it doesn't overlap. Fantastic. And you'll see that this line is not a straight line. This line is straight, but the chair line is not straight. So we'll start, move this up as high as we can. I don't want it to go over top of those teeth. I'm going to tack it down in the middle first. This has a pretty steep curve from side to side. So I'm going to tack it down in the middle here and then here. Look, I'm eating and I don't even know how. Don't feel anything. And then I'm going to take it from the sides and do it there so that this bow will naturally happen. And keep that nice and straight. I don't think that overlap is too bad, so I'm going to leave it. We also don't, this is kind of caving in right here. I don't know if that's going to happen when I do this. It kind of does. So I want to see if I can pop that out. Oh, good. I was able to rub that out of the way. There's a little bit of an overlap up here that I can just trim off. Try not to rip it. Okay, that looks good. Let's see. Did you do this before you added the cushioning to the front as well? No. There is none of this tackboard, chipboard on the front of the chair at all. There is, we use burlap on the front of the frame, and there's also jute webbing strips in the back underneath that burlap. That's enough to help create that and to hold that structure. This just needs to be a little bit stiffer because the frame has voids in it, and you want to make sure that you fill those voids with something that's going to help hold that shape. And you just got a couple more staples on this side I'm going to put in. That's good. Okay, now I can do the one on the very far side. Tethered to my plug, so there's not too much I can do about the angle for this moment. It's not a great angle. Alright, so I just need this to go on the back. I'm going to start it in the center, top, bottom, and then wrap this around to the side to hold the shape. That looks so good. Now all of that's flat. Ideally, you should put this on before you get the Welt and the Pli-Grip on, but I completely forgot. Before your live yesterday, I was going to pay to fix the sag of my sofa or buy a new one. Now, right? You can do it. I promise you can do it. 100% of my students learn springing very easily, and they do it right the first time. So they all have enjoyed it. I see we have 24.7 thousand likes, but there's over 100 of you guys in here. I got 20,000 likes yesterday with 20 of you in here. So if you're here and you're learning something and you like hanging out with me, all I ask is that you tap on the screen as violently as possible. A little heart's going to show up right here, and it reaches the end of like a meter, and it throws you a party. When you do that, it throws my stuff out to the For You page and helps people find me. A lot of you, that's probably how you found me. And then it helps me to teach people upholstery. I do this live on Tuesdays, every single Tuesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And today's a treat. I happened to just want to finish the project that I started yesterday, so I'm doing that here. So all I ask when you do that is that you tap on the screen as much as possible. It sends people to my page, and that's how people learn that I teach upholstery classes and that you can come here and take classes from me. I can teach live upholstery classes virtually. I also do private lessons. I have weekend upholstery camps you can attend, all kinds of stuff. What's your favorite staple gun? My favorite staple gun that I use is this. This is the first one that I got that wasn't a Harbor Freight one. And I don't know how to pronounce it because I've never seen it or heard it said out loud. It's either B-A, BIA, or BEA. I don't know which one it is, but this is a $400 gun. If you invest in a pneumatic stapler, I highly suggest you invest in a long nose first. This is a short nose. Long noses are about this much longer. There are going to be instances where you need a long nose. If you don't have it, you're going to be stuck and you're not going to be able to move forward, but you can use a long nose for anything. $400 gun, but these come at $100 guns that are just as effective. You just might have to oil them a little bit more. Where are you located? I'm in Ann Arbor, Michigan. My in-person classes I teach Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So if you were to come to visit, then you could do a 4-day weekend with me. All my classes are buy 3, get 1 free. They're $75 a piece and they're each 3 hours long. So if you were to sign up for a 4-day weekend to come out and visit me, you're paying $225 for the set of 4 classes, and they're bring a friend free. So you can bring your friend, split the cost, and have them help you work on your project, and you get it done that much faster. So you can come visit me, but I also teach in-person workshops, virtual workshops. So you can attend my group classes online, or you can attend private workshops where I can schedule them at your own convenience. It's up to you. So now we get to put batting on the back. So we're going to do a measurement. This is where we're going to be able to test if we can put all this on in one piece. I'm trying to put my fabric on in one piece. So if we can put the batting on in one piece, we should be good to go. So I need to measure the widest width around the chair, which for me is going to be right at this arm level here, and then the tallest height from here to here. That's how big of a piece of batting I need to cut. So my batting is going to go right about to the top of this welt and just end at the bottom of this chair. It's not going to wrap under. I don't want my batting to wrap under because it'll round off this edge, sometimes unevenly, and it won't look nice and clean when I put my trim on there. So I stop my batting right at the edge of my frame. So the length of the piece I need here is 23 inches, but I also want to make sure that I can hold on to it with my hands, and I need at least 2 inches on each side to be able to do that. So I'm going to do like 26 inches probably, just to make sure that I have enough. So 26 inches tall, and then the widest width around the chair, I'm just stopping in the middle, 26 is 40 or 52 inches, which is great because that's exactly how wide my batting is. So now I can get the batting down. Let me check. What supplies do you need to have for virtual classes? So I have a list. I think in my frequently asked questions stuff, I have a list of stuff that you'll need for classes like that. If I don't have it in there, I'm definitely going to put it in there after this live because I want it to be in there. But to get started, typically first class is taking apart your piece of furniture. So you're removing the staples. So most people don't know where to start or where to stop removing staples and everything that goes on your chair. So having someone there to help you, one, figure out the best, fastest way to remove the staples, and two, let you know what parts to leave and what parts to take off is a really good thing. So you need a staple remover, you're going to need scissors, probably some kind of hammer and some kind of screwdriver if you have parts that come apart on your chair. But for the most part, you might need one of these so that you can measure for foam and materials. Most part of the first class is taking you apart. To do upholstery, you just need a stapler, scissors, needle, thread, and whatever materials you're putting on. If you're new, you can reuse the materials that are on there. We'll show you how to do that. You don't need to put a lot of money into this if you're just practicing. I highly suggest you reuse what you can when you can. That being said, we can make sure that you have everything you need before every class, and you can always email me a picture of what it is that you're going to be working on, and if you need anything special, I'll give you your own personalized list. So my email is in the link in my bio too, so you can send me your pictures through there, and you can see my schedule on the link in my bio. Okay, good. So now we're going to access, see that big ass roll of battery? That's what I need. I need that down here. Move you guys to the other charger so we can put that at the cutting table. I'm going to move the batting to the other side so you guys can still see. this batting I actually carry on my website. If you order batting from my website, it will come to you looking like this. Keep that in mind. You need a place to store it. This is how you can get it at Joann's too, right off the wall. Let this go to the floor. So I need 52 inches wide, and I believe that that is the width of this cutaway. It's either 52 or 54. Let's try it. It's 55. It's 55. So 52 inches wide by, what did we say, tall? 26? Yes. By 26. So here, I'm going to just measure 26 inches down. I always suggest you mark this and then cut it, but I can't find my marker. So I'm just setting my ruler there, and I'm going to do my best to cut it straight up. Make sure we have 26 inches on this. Exciting with the clothes that are up. Okay, so this should do it. This should fit. Let me get you guys plugged back in over at the sawhorses. Okay. All right. So whenever I'm applying any material to my chair that I need to use staples to apply it to, I want to first get it stretched out across the surface before I start drilling in staples. And the reason I do that is because I really hate pulling staples. And if you get stuff put in the wrong place, then you're going to end up having to go and remove 100 staples, and you just really don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to attach it in the middle here, in the middle on the bottom, and then in the middle on both the sides. And that is how I'm going to, oh, I forgot that it curves up on the side. I hope we have enough material. I might have to cut a different piece because it's going to curve up this way, and it might not be enough to cover the bottom, but we'll see. So I need the edge of this material is going to go to the edge of the top of this Pli-Grip. I don't want it to tuck into the Pli-Grip when I go to tuck my fabric in, because it'll fill in that channel and it won't grip the fabric the way it's supposed to. So I want the batting to stop at the edge of the Pli-Grip, and we'll go through with scissors to trim and make sure it doesn't go past. So you don't have to worry too much about making sure it goes straight with it right at this point. You can trim it to fit it later on down the road, but you will want to line it up as best as you can and then come back through and trim it later on. So I'm going to first find the center of this so that I can make sure I have the same amount of material on both sides. I'm just holding the center there. And I have a center mark on my chair. And I'm just going to line that up there. And I'm putting 2 staples below the Pli-Grip. The staples are going here, and then they're just going to be held diagonally. Now I'm going to wrap this first. Oh good, it's long enough. I don't want to wrestle this material, so I'm wrapping it around and pinning it in place so that I don't have to try and catch it later before I put any more staples in. Pins are a great alternative to staples. So now I'm going to go directly from the middle staples here and apply my staples in the bottom. Those staples are going at the bottom. I'm pulling this fairly taut so that it's nice and stiff and nice and flat up against that chipboard that I just put in. And my staples are going to go at the very bottom edge diagonally within a ½ inch of each other. Eventually I'm going to fill these in, go all the way around, and there's going to be a staple every ½ inch. But for now, I'm just putting a handful of staples in to stretch this in place and get it to where it needs to be before I start drilling staples. So first staples here, and now I can work on stretching this material across the side without getting any wrinkles in it. And this is my litmus test for whether or not I can use one piece of material to cover this. And so far this is working good. I'm going to need to stretch this from the bottom because it's wider at the top than it is on the bottom. So I want to tighten it down here first, and the next staple I put is going to be at the bottom of the frame, down here in this corner, right here in this area. So this is pulled nice and taut. I'm pulling down as well as out. And then I'm going to put 2 staples at the bottom edge here. And then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. I'm not going to put any more staples in up here because I'm trying to stretch this area first. So I'm going to be symmetrical and go do the same thing on the other side. If you were to try and staple from one, ooh, they're real close, really. I'm tethered to a charger. If you were to try to staple from one end all the way down to the other, your material is going to twist and turn, and it's going to get wrinkles and shears in it, and you don't want that. So I'm pulling again snug down and over this way to stretch it into place, and I'm putting my staple right here next to the Pli-Grip and the very bottom edge of the frame. Again, this material is not going to wrap under the frame because it is going to round off that edge, and I'm not going to be able to get a clean look with my welt there. So I'm going to trim it flush with the edge of the frame after I get everything done. So my next staples, I want to be at these upper corner arms because I want to make sure that this is pulled evenly across this way. I don't know if you notice this bunch up around my hands when I do this, but that's a really good way to make sure you get the excess slack. For this staple, I'm actually going to be pulling up and over this way so I can get taut around here and tight up top and bottom. And I just put my staple right in the corner there to hold it in place. And my next staple is going to be up here at this corner. Perfect. So now that I have this in place and this is taut, I can put a staple here. I can probably put a couple here. These are going just underneath where the Pli-Grip is. I don't need to litter this with staples. You could change the shape of it, that way you could be able to tell where you put the staples. I'm just holding it into place. On the bottom, however, I'm going to take a nice line of staples and clean the whole bit of that up. But for now, I just need to hold this in place and just a couple staples around each edge. Now we'll move to do the same thing on the other side. This is promising because I can get this whole piece of fabric, the batting material on in one piece. I should be able to get the fabric on in one piece, which means there's not going to be any seams right here. It's going to be nice and clean. So I'm going to start with this staple up here so I don't accidentally pull it down too far. And then we're going to do the same thing, stretch this up and over. You don't want to pull too tight because this is a very not durable material and it will fall apart very easily. But you do want it to be nice and taut. If it's too tight, it'll pull away from the staples when someone puts pressure on it. But it does need to be taut. So I'm going to put another one here. A couple along this edge. And a couple along here. And then just a couple along the top so that that doesn't dip down over time before I pull the bottom straight. Again, I need this this batting to come right up to the edge of that Pli-Grip. And I'm out of staples. One moment. So I'm pulling it up into place to make sure that I get the coverage that I need. We got real lucky. I was real nervous. That wasn't going to work out lengthwise. Looks good. And now I can do that final snug, pull everything down by the bottom, and then this is going to get diagonal staples all within a ½ inch of each other. I'm going to get you guys closer so you can see how many I'm putting in. This is where we start putting in staples, and it's safe to do because now I've got all my material on the back and it's all stretched out where it needs to be, so it's I don't have to readjust it or take out any staples. So this is my edge. My staple is going diagonal right along the edge. I want to try and keep that line as straight as possible. What it does is it flattens out the bottom of the batting and allows you to have a nice, clean, crisp edge for your trim down there. So it like gradiates down. If you were to staple straight, then this is going to pop up and create like a lump, almost kind of like it does at the top here. But that's going to get bent and tucked into here. You won't see that. But that's what it'll do at the bottom if you don't put your staples in right, and then you'll be able to see that. So you want to make sure that you're flattening this down. When I go across the leg, there's a channel here. My fabric will get stapled in this channel, but my batting will not. I do not want to fill that up with material and have it sandwich on top of each other. You'll be able to see the batting even after you put the welt there. So keep your batting out of there. It's going to get cut flush with that top part of the frame. You won't always have that channel there, so it's not, every piece is not the same. Always pull the batting under the frame because then I can see the harsh line of the frame, and that helps me to keep a straighter line. Almost done here. And I'm ready to trim the material as far as I've stapled here so that I can just get it out of the way. And I just need a good pair of scissors. This might work. I don't know if these are sharp enough. No, they're not. Hold on. Hold, please. Okay. So now I'm going to run my scissors through the top of that channel where the Pli-Grip is, so that this batting comes right up to the edge of the Pli-Grip, but that it won't roll in and tuck under and bulk up that area where the fabric needs to go. So the way I do that, and you won't be able to see it from the angle you're at now, but I just stick my scissors right in the channel of that Pli-Grip. When I get closer to you, you'll be able to see it better. So I stick my scissors right into that groove, and I'm just trimming all around the welt. So it's like the bottom of the welt, top of the Pli-Grip. The scissors fall right into that channel really easily, so it'll make it nice and flush. That's what exactly you want it to be, as exact as possible. So I do that for all edges. Pretty easy to keep a clean line when you're using the guide you already put in there. And then for the bottom here, let me get this out of the way. I'm gonna have to trim it. Hold on. Do a little bit at a time so you can make sure you see what you're doing. Don't just aimlessly start hacking away with scissors because you think you know how close. Just take your time. Good. So the bottom part down here, I can just keep my scissors flush with the frame and trim it right flush with the frame. So I'm physically touching the frame with my scissors, Be careful not to cut the frame with your scissors, because if you have good fabric scissors, they can still cut the wood and they will really make your scissors dull. When I get to this leg, where that channel is, I don't know if you can see it anymore, I'm running this pair of scissors right in the channel to make sure that none of this folds into that channel. I need to keep that channel clear so my fabric can go in there, and then I can create a clean line with my welt. So now I can move this way. I'm gonna straighten up the camera. Hold on, I can't see from behind it. So now we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep putting staples down along the bottom edge and then cut off all the trim. So if I hold my material and I pull it under, I can see the edge, and then I can keep my line really straight. Another channel here I don't want to staple into, so I can feel it with my finger. Keep that line straight, and then back on the other side. Perfect. So now I can trim this off, and then I'm not going to attach the fabric today because this isn't the fabric I want to attach, but I will use this fabric to show you how it attaches. So running this right up the edge of the Pli-Grip. Both on the top and bottom. My scissors will ride right in the channel, so that's how helps me keep it straight with the Pli-Grip. It's just riding right in here. This creates a lot of scrap and waste. Bigger pieces like this I'll save because we can use them on arms and stuff. Tinier pieces we might not be able to save, but if you do stuffed animals or anything that needs stuffing, you can pull this apart and use it as polyfill. It's the same material, it's just felted together. So save it if you can. Conserve when you can. I'm going to go through and just see if you guys have any questions. I'm in Ann Arbor, if you ask. It looks like I've answered all your questions. So now we can... Oh, I gotta trim this. Make it that trim flush with the frame. We've almost finished it. Oh, look at those likes coming in too. We got like 35.2 thousand likes. The more you guys like this page, the more it sends it out to a For You page. The more I get to teach you how to do this for free, or you can come in person and learn from me for pretty cheap too. My name is Kim. I teach upholstery workshops. I'm here today working on my own project. I'm usually here every Tuesday live for Tutorial Tuesdays, where I give you tutorials on how I'm working on the current project that I'm working on. But I'm here today because I didn't finish this yesterday and I'm kind of stuck on it because it looks really cool. So that's what we're doing here today. So if you just joined, we're reupholstering this chair. Let me turn it around for you. Another chair just like this, so you guys will get to see that process again. I am going to now show you how to put the back fabric on this. And this is the fabric, so I ordered it from Spoonflower. This is what we're putting on the back. Not this specific fabric though, because this was misprinted and I can't use it. There's some stripes in it, and that's from the printer itself, and I don't want to see those stripes. It's beautiful fabric. Spoonflower was really cool when I let them know that I was not happy with the quality of the print, and they are sending me a new order. So I'm very excited to see that come in. I know I've had a lot of people order stuff. I know a lot of people order stuff from Spoonflower, and it turns out beautiful. So I know this is not typically what you would expect to see from them, but I can use it because I'm not going to cut it. I'm just going to drape it over, and I can use it to show you how I would attach this to the chair. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to turn this around again. So I've got all my Pli-Grip in place. That's what's going to hold my fabric on and finish it off. I've got my welting in place, which is going to help define the lines of that. So I need a regulator, which is essentially an ice pick, to be able to apply this along with the staples. I'm going to use temporary staples so that I can take them out and they're not going to leave a mark in the fabric. So the first thing I want to do is find the direction of the fabric. This is velvet. So velvet should wipe down from top to bottom and smooth, and when you wipe it up it should like get matted. You want to make sure that your velvet is in the right direction. This is going on the back, so it doesn't really matter, and it's only one panel, so two pieces of velvet next to each other in different naps will look like two different colors, so that's something to keep in mind. This is going on as one panel, so technically it doesn't matter, but what I will say, when someone is sitting in your seat, they slide down in it. So from the front of the chair, you want that nap to wipe down so it doesn't get matted, because it only takes a couple of times people sitting in it matting it up for that to become permanently damaged. That fabric is beautiful. Thank you so much. I really love it too. So the designer, her name is Nikki Quartermain, and she is a designer at Spoonflower. She's got a lot of whimsical floral woodland creature designs like this. It's really cool. And you can have this printed on just about anything. This is velvet, high performance velvet, so it's meant for upholstery. I'm going to fold this in half so I can start with the center. Whenever I'm putting a panel of fabric, also I want to make sure I do it smaller. Yeah. So this will go on as one panel. I'm going to mark the center here with just a little snip. It's not in the, this is bad scissors for that. It's not in the print. I don't know if they're going to want me to send this back or not. Nikki said no, but so I don't want to see this salvage edge on my, so I want to make sure that my print lines up with that. But I can mark a center mark in my chair, which I have one marked right under here that I can see, and line this up first. So in order to attach this to the Pli-Grip, you're going to need a regulator, which is a nice thing. Or anything pointy will do. My regulators look like this, and I also sell these on my website, these same exact ones, so you can get these. My family owns an upholstery supply shop in Oregon. Ooh, that's so exciting, because I actually am coming to Bend, Oregon this summer to do one of these weekend upholstery camps. Is it near Bend, Oregon? Because that would be so cool if I could come and visit your upholstery supply shop, or even use that shop to order materials for my classes. That would be very cool. All right, I'm lining this up in the center, and let me get this close so you guys can see how this gets applied. The same way, I apply all my materials to my furniture the same exact way, which is evenly distribute them before I start locking anything down. So I'm going to apply this in the center here, and then I'm going to lock it down in the center on the bottom, and then I'm going to hit it up in the center on the sides and stretch it out evenly before I start locking it into place, especially using staples. So I'm going to get this a little higher so you can see up. I also have to move my charger a bit. Hold on. I have a center mark in here that I can see that you cannot see, but I can see. You're just going to have to trust me. This material is also too long for what I need it, but I'm not trying to cut it because I don't know if they need me to send it back. I'm just doing this as an example. We're not going to cut it into place. So I need my material to tuck right into the teeth of this Pli-Grip. And I use my regulator to sort of push it down in there. So I'm going to be lining this up in the center on the top, pushing it in with my regulator to get stuck, and just locking it, pushing it down right in that center piece to hold it in place. So I can use pins actually to hold this up the way I need to. I'm just going to stretch it around both sides. This is way too long, and leaving it long like this will impact how well you can stretch it evenly across. I'm not cutting this because I'm not actually using this today. I'm just showing you how to use the Pli-Grip. I might have to send this back, so we're gonna just keep it intact if we can. So I'm stretching it over on this side. And the goal is to stretch it across and bring it out nice and smooth, but it also has to like reach all of these points. So I can already tell that that center point that I made is not going to work out for me. And this actually isn't even wide enough to go across in this way. So I am going to have to move stuff around. Oh, I pulled way too much over here. So I'm going to undo this. And I haven't hammered this down yet, so it's not going to affect the teeth. I just pushed it down with my hand. So moving that, retucking that back, and then pushing those teeth in to hold it in place. Let me get this wrapped back around. And we'll do the same thing to the other side. Just enough. So the goal is to get this on in one continuous piece so that I don't have any seams. So I have it marked in the center on the top. That's probably going to have to move, I can already tell. So now I can sort of like smooth this around in place. I'm going to pull it into the corner here on this side, tuck it in with my regulator and push that up. And then I can stretch this whole side. Let's see. It's locked in here, it's locked in the center. This is pulling nice and flush. I can stretch this whole side and make sure that this material is stretched up to make sure that it is going to line up on that side. So I'm going to tuck one edge of my fabric in on the bottom corner. And then I'm going to stretch this up to this corner, and I'm going to do the same thing up here. So the goal is to get this stretched nice and taut and nice and evenly over the surface. By first evenly distributing it across the chair. So this is all extra stuff that'll get cut off. This is tucked in there. I'm not going to cut the material to show you guys that this fits all the way, but I do want to show you what it looks like. So let's do this side next. So we got the centers locked down. I got that corner done here. I'm also going to want to get it stretched out from the center and that side all the way here, and make sure that it stretches out properly this way too. I'm going to use my regulator. I lock it down, push it in. I've not dragged this through the whole thing yet. I'm just holding it in place. And then I'm going to take this bottom, or the whole side actually, with both of my hands. Oh, that's so pretty. And stretch it across this way. And I'm making sure that I'm stretching it up this way as well, down this way, and over in this direction at the same time so that it's evenly distributed. And then I can lock the corner in to anchor it down. Sometimes it's hard to see where those teeth are if they're pushed down too far. So that end is stuck, and I can do the same thing down here, stretching it out this way. That's locked down. Everything is looking good. Let's take a look around the chair and make sure that there's no wrinkles, that it's stretched evenly. I do see some shearing here, so this might be able to get tightened up before we lock everything down. So I'm going to undo it on this corner, and I'm going to give it another snug. Push it in there. And that's awesome. Now, if before I go to tuck this in everywhere around the corner, I actually have to cut off all this excess, and I'm going to need to make snips where it curves here, and I'm not going to be able to show you guys that today. Someone said the print is centered too. So that's what happens when you make your center mark, at the very center, and get that locked down first. It's way easier to center it. But what you do want to do is make sure that all the heights and stuff are also the same, because this has a pattern repeat on it. So this pattern repeats all over the chair, and what it really ends up being is stripes. So this flower comes down to this flower here, which you can't tell here is off center. This flower should be down here. So I wouldn't leave this fabric on here like this. I would make that attempt to turn it and make sure that it gets on straight. The fact that this fabric is too long is making it really difficult for me to put this on properly, but like I said, we're not going to be putting this fabric on because we had it reprinted. I'm just showing you how to use that Pli-Grip with this. So I'm going to go through and show you how to tuck the rest of this in the areas that I can, but I won't be able to do it around the arms. But in terms of this being stretched out evenly, this is all nice and smooth, looks great. So the next step, we'll get close to this Pli-Grip here, is that you take your Pli-Grip, and you will be you can do this in small sections, you don't have to do it in one. I sort of pull everything up so that it's nice and stretched, and then you're just going to run your regulator through that channel all the way around, and I'm pushing that material. I want it to be taut on this side, but I'm really pulling the excess material from the other side. And once I do that, I can push this down with my fingers so that that holds on really tight. And once I've done this all the way around the chair, I'm actually going to take my scissors and I'm going to go through and I'm going to trim right up to that seam so that I can tuck the rest of this in and hammer it down. I'm not going to trim this because I'm sending this fabric back, but that's how it gets tucked into that Pli-Grip. Once it's trimmed off, you hammer it with you hammer it with a mallet, and it pushes that down in real tight to that welt right there. And then that welt becomes the frame for that fabric. So you'll hammer that down, and that goes down really tight. What I will say when I trim this though, and when I get the fabric, I'm going to do this so you guys can see it. So I take this when I go to trim it, I actually pull it out a little bit and then I trim it. So I'll come through here, pull it out, and trim it right up to that line. What that does is make sure that this fabric doesn't fold down into that channel and double up and come back, because those teeth won't stick into both layers, which means this could easily be pulled back and pried open over time. And I see someone said, can I see the pointy end of your shiv? Regulator? Yes, of course. This is my regulator. I don't know if you can see it better on that background. It's very pointy, very sharp, not for use of removing staples. It cannot withstand that, but it's good for a lot of things. It's good for this. It's good for tucking things in that you don't want to see. It's good for picking glue off of stuff. It's good for a lot of stuff. It's a well-informed tool. And that, you guys, is it for today. So I don't know if you learned anything from me today. I really hope that you did. When the new fabric comes in, we're going to take this, we're going to do this part again, and you guys will be able to watch me put this on properly. But I don't want to cut into this fabric because this is not the one we're going to use, and I don't know if I have to send it back. That was so helpful. Thank you so much. Thank you, unapologetically, Steph, for joining me today. If you guys are here, while I'm talking, I'll give you my whole little spiel before I go. Just tap the screen as much as you can. What that does is it sends people over to my, it sends me through your For You page so that other people like you will see it, and then they learn that I teach classes. So my name is Kim. I teach upholstery workshops here out of my local makerspace in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I do 4 classes per week that are in person, and right now I have one group class that's a virtual upholstery class on Monday nights from 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join that, and you can learn upholstery from me by bringing your own project. Your project can be at any stage. You can have any level of experience. You don't have to know what you're doing at all. Bring your project to one of my classes, and I'll walk you through step by step how to reupholster it, how to refinish it, everything you need to know to remake the piece that you want to. In my in-person classes, you come into class, bring your piece with you and do it there. In my virtual classes, you bring your piece to your home and you join me via Zoom. It is a live class. I do work with you one-on-one, but my virtual upholstery group classes are for up to 6 people to sign up. You can also book a private lesson too. So you can book virtual private lessons with me and get one-on-one experience, but these are live and I will teach you how to do it. I have lots of people who have taken my virtual classes and learned a ton from them. I also have a group on Facebook called the Local Upholstery Club. If you're looking to learn upholstery and you just need support, I think that was so cute. If you're looking to learn upholstery and you just need support along the way, it's a great group to join. That's a really supportive group, almost 900 people in there now, of people who have never done upholstery and people who have been doing it for 50 years. It's really supportive. Everybody there is either there to learn or to give their knowledge. Nobody is there to judge you, so you're not going to go in there with your DIY skills and get torn down. I learned by teaching myself. Most upholsterers do because there's no formal education for it here in the United States anymore. So I want to spread that knowledge to as many people as possible because there's not enough upholsterers out here to sustain the trade. We need more skilled tradespeople. So I'm teaching you in any way I know how. I do my in-person classes, my virtual workshops, and I also have weekend upholstery camps. Last year we did weekend upholstery retreats where you could come here and stay the weekend with me at a local bed and breakfast. We stayed at a historic mansion in downtown Ypsilanti that had chef-prepared meals and all kinds of fun stuff. We relaxed at night and then we worked 8 hours during the day for 3 days straight, and we worked on our upholstery projects. We sold out those retreats. It was a lot of fun. They were also pretty expensive, so that made them inaccessible to most people. So in order to make them more accessible this year, I want to visit local maker spaces just like the one I have here and teach weekend retreats in your area. So if you have a maker space in your area, and if you don't know if you have one, go ahead and Google maker space near me, who doesn't already teach classes like this, you can send them to the link in my bio that says weekend upholstery camps and have them call me and try and set up a date for me to come out there and teach a weekend camp in your area. So this spring and summer, I'm taking it on the road. I'm working with Bend, Oregon right now, DIY Cave in Bend, Oregon, to come out there for possibly 2 weekend retreats straight in a row. And if that happens, then we'll be teaching the class right in the middle of the week. We'll teach classes in the middle of the week too. So you can, I think in a couple weeks you should be able to sign up for that one. I'm pretty excited to go out there. But find a local makerspace near you. If you connect me with a makerspace and that connection works out to a relationship where I end up coming out there, you will get to take that weekend upholstery camp for free with me. That's how much I appreciate you making that connection. It's a really exciting time. We have a lot of fun. Your meals are included. Your materials are included. I will come to you. I know that there's not a lot of stuff like this all over the United States, so I'm trying to make it as accessible as possible, and I like to travel. Several maker spaces in Philly. Yeah, call them up, tell them who I am, send them to my link, and I would love to come out there and teach this to you. You're such a kind and lovely badass, just wow. Oh, so many crazy words in one sentence. Thank you so much. I really enjoy doing this. I closed my business a couple of years ago. I was making furniture professionally with my husband. I closed my business after 6 years because we couldn't sustain the demand on our own. I couldn't hire anybody because nobody knew how to do this. I couldn't train anyone because I was in production and it was too expensive. So after we closed our business, I decided I want to teach as many people how to do upholstery as possible and in order to be able to one day do this professionally again. So my goal is to one day have like a tattoo shop, but for furniture, where you go in and you pick a piece off the wall, you pick your fabric, you pick your artist, and they make something really cool for you. That's my dream. Since I've been teaching in-person workshops here at this makerspace, since last October, we've had close to 300 people come through the doors. 60% of them return to complete their projects, and a little more than a dozen of them are running their own businesses now, doing this out of their home, and we've also had some job placements. So we're doing the thing. We're doing the thing we set out to do. We're getting more people trained, and hopefully one day I'll be able to do this professionally again. But for now, I'm thoroughly enjoying just teaching. So I love doing the classes, and I love doing this online. Just join and hit all for notifications in hopes of not missing the next live. I'm so excited that you did that. Thank you so much. That really means a lot to me, and it really does a lot for my engagement to send people through. I see we have 45,000 likes right now. I'd love to get that up to 50 before I leave here, so I'm going to stick around for a couple minutes to answer any questions you might have, and I'll give you a spin around the chair. If you need a spiel from me again, let me know. Otherwise, put stuff in the comments. I'm going to flip this camera around so you guys can take a look at the work we did today. Flip. Okay, so here you can see the stripes. These are not supposed to be here. You can also see these stripes go down crooked, which is another way that I know that this is an on straight. That and the flower should line up this way. So this is on slightly crooked, but that's okay because we're not using this fabric here like this. We'll be putting a different piece on, but that sort of shows you guys how easy it is to get it crooked. So we've stretched this out across the surface and tucked it into our Pli-Grip, which looks like this underneath, and that's how we're closing that up. Yesterday we did the upholstery of the front of this. We made the pattern, and we measured and made the pattern for this. I did this part on my own yesterday because I was scared to do it in front of you guys because this curve is real difficult, and the way that I made the pattern is different than I usually do it, so I was nervous. But the second chair, I have another one of these, I'll be doing that the same way. We did Welt today, so the contrasting Welt, and we chose the gold Welt. Thanks for participating in that poll online. It's looking pretty good. So you'll see where we've tucked that in, and I'll give you one last look at how it's very satisfying to do Pli-Grip. I'm going to tuck this up so you can see. All you really have to do is drag it across those teeth, and that's how you apply the fabric. Very satisfying. If it goes on in wrinkles like this, you just pull it out, tuck it back up. I'm going to go right over the lip there, and then ride it back down. And then you can take one big swoop and really get it in there. Easy peasy. So that's how we're going to apply that. That isn't easy to do. So excited for you. Thank you so much. The material is beautiful. I appreciate that. It is very satisfying. I hope you guys get the opportunity to do this. If you're working on your own upholstery projects from home, you can join the local upholstery club, and that's free. It's a private Facebook group, and then whenever you get stuck, you can ask me questions by tagging me in a post, send some pictures for context, and I'm happy to help you out. We're almost at 50,000. We got a couple more. If you guys could just violently tap the screen like this. A little meter is going to show up on the upper left-hand corner, and it's going to make its way to the end. It's like a cute little pink heart. When it hits the end, it throws you a party. And that's what I want for you guys. I want a party for you. So let me flip this around and answer any questions if we have them. Well, I can take you for a tour in my makerspace while we do that. How about that? Let's do that.
Display it, yeah.
So this is the conference room, which is a common area classroom that anybody can reserve to do stuff in. I'm in here making my mess today, but they do lots of different types of classes here. That's Executive Director Josh. He's doing some choring around here today. And then this is the area you actually enter through when you get to MakerWorks. So I'll start at the beginning. We have Lily and her sister Poppy, who are shop mascots. It's a very dog-friendly place. So this is where you come in. This is the table that I just finished. We got to get this in storage. And then you'll just come into the reception desk and sign in. If you've never been here before, someone like Nova, hi Nova, will help you sign up and get registered. You sign your name on the check-in list. You can see what classes are available usually on the screen. There's sometimes classes happening out here, and then we have computers here available for those design programs. If you do graphic design, CAD design, 3D design, we have all of those here for you. So this is our jewelry studio. This has mills, CNC mills and lathes. We do pewter sand casting in here. We have a kiln, so you can do enameling, you can do centrifugal wax casting. There's so many different cool things to do here in the jewelry studio. And if you walk through here, you can see our 3D printer area. We have Form 2 3D printers, which this uses a UV light to harden resin as it comes up out of the bed. And then we have filament printers, which one is working right here, right now.
I was thinking I could probably run it pretty fast.
That print by heating up this filament and then laying it on the bed. Our electronics area has a CNC PCB cutter, which you can make your own circuit boards. I didn't even know you could do that. But that's really cool. You can cut your own circuit boards here. Any tools you need for electronics will be here too. We have a large format vinyl cutter, and the vinyl materials here are available for you to use if you need them. And then we also have heat presses if you want to make your own t-shirts, cool stuff like that. The most popular section of our shop are definitely these laser cutters. You can reserve these to cut your own projects. I don't know if this one is cutting that one. And you can come and use these tools at any time. You usually just have to take a safety class to learn how to use them first. So the area that I'm walking into now is our textiles area. We have CNC embroidery machines. We have industrial sewing machines, Bernina sewing machines, really good stuff. And then this is the area of the shop where you can see some of these doors. These are leasable office spaces for businesses. So small businesses come here and they lease these office spaces mostly for storage. You can see inside this one. This is Woody, I believe, of Lockwood Guitars and Goods, and he does woodworking. And this is his office space. So we go through here where all these office spaces are, more office spaces, and we're going to open this up to some storage. So this is rentable storage, so you don't have to lug your projects around. I pay for rentable storage here as well. It just looks a little bit different. I keep it in that classroom that I was just in. So they have temporary storage where you can keep stuff. While I'm giving you this tour, I'm fully expecting you to be tapping that like button. More office. And then we're entering here into the metal shop. And in the metal shop, we have the Scotchman iron something. I can't remember what it's called. It punches giant holes in things. And then we also have this CNC plasma cutter, which is sort of like having a Cricut vinyl cutter, but for metal. You can use computerized designs and you can send them to it and it'll cut out stuff like these signs. I believe this dinosaur was made on the CNC, signs like this. Lots of cool like wall decor stuff. All the sanders, horizontal band saws, drill presses, anything you could need to work with metal. This is the welding area. So you can learn how to weld here and then you can come use the welders whenever you want. It's very cool. You don't have to be an expert to start any of this. They will teach you how to use the tools. The staff is here to help you all along the way. There are CNC mills and lathes. There are regular metal mills and lathes. Very fun stuff to work with. We have shears, benders, and rollers. We have a powder coating unit, so you can do your powder coating here. We have a high temp oven there to cover your projects. Sandblaster, you can do sandblasting. And we're about to come into the wood shop. It's really loud. You might not be able to hear me, but I'm going to walk you through. This is one of everybody's favorite places. It is like a dreamland. I agree. So this is the wood shop. Wait for it. So this is the place you come to work on your wood projects. We have a saw-stop table saw, which if you're unfamiliar, will not allow you to saw your hands off. There's a fun fancy brake on it that'll stop it before it lets you do that. We have planers, drum sanders. This is my favorite tool. This is what I use to carve the top of my tabletops. It's a CNC ShopBot router. This also takes computerized designs and carves your wood for you. These are some examples. It does 3D design. It can even do 360 design with the right tool that's attached. But you run it from here and basically you just sit and watch it, babysit it. You don't have to have any real skill to operate it. We got bandsaws, we got lots of clamps. We have a wood lathe, so you can make bowls, candlesticks, table legs, stuff of that nature. This is the fun one that Ella likes to use. And then you come back through here and you end up in the classroom that we were just in. So let's check that out. And here we are. And this is the classroom that I teach out of. And some of my stuff stays here full time, like my toolbox and my sawhorses and this foam. I have to pay extra for that storage to access this, but I'm here all the time. I teach my classes here all the time, so it makes sense to do that. Let me turn this around and answer your questions. Oh, walking, man. Good for the heart, but exhausting. Right. That's like 40 or 52 inches, so just over 4 yards for 2 chairs. Hold on. But I also have, hold on, another chair. So 2 of these chairs serve as captain's chairs to go around the table. I don't know if you've seen my peony table design, but I'm using that CNC router to cut a design into the top of a table that's like peonies around the border, and when it opens up, that design extends. There's a leaf in the middle. So these chairs are to go with that. There's 2 of these captain's chairs, and then I have 4 of these chairs. And these will get that pattern design on the back, and they will be the blue fabric on the front that you see here. They're both colors in at one time. So I will need, I ordered 3 yards of fabric to cover all 4 of these chairs. So that should be enough. I'm going back through the questions while we were there. Yay, tour! I love this space. I love this space too. If it wasn't for this makerspace, I wouldn't be able to run my business. Most makerspaces incubate small businesses, whether they let them come and make their products there to sell online, or they have extra space that businesses, small businesses or entrepreneurs can lease out to use on their own. This space has both of those. I had a chair sitting in my garage for 2 years that I want to reupholster. I'm scared I'll mess it up. Join my upholstery club. It's the first, quickest, free way to learn, because we have a lot of people sharing good tips and tricks in there. But you can take virtual lessons from me, or you can take in-person lessons from me. But I'm here on Tuesdays, every Tuesday for free. You can learn from me there. This place is awesome. It's like a dreamland. It is very cool here. It's very cool, and once you come in, you never want to leave. How many yards are we using for the chair? We discussed that. Each one of these chairs gets 26 inches, the 2 big chairs, and then I ordered 3 yards so that I should be able to get the 2 big chairs and then 4 of these little chairs with the backs of them. I'm located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. If you travel here to take in-person workshops with me, I teach my classes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so that you can take all of them 4 consecutively in a row. All my classes are buy 3, get 1 free, and they're $75 each. So if you sign up for 4 classes in a row and you come visit me for the weekend, it's going to cost you $225. All my classes are also bring a friend free to help you with your project, so you and a friend can split $225, come for a 4-day weekend, fly into Detroit Metro Airport, hang out with me for the weekend, and learn upholstery all weekend long for super cheap. I did my weekend upholstery retreats, last year 3 times, $1,600 a pop for the tickets, and 2 of them sold completely be out. So this is a really cheap way for you to kind of get that weekend experience with me by just coming out to my regular classes, which I have organized in a way that you can come take them consecutively. Can we see the table? Do you have time? I will take it out to the table so you can see. I just looked up CNC routing. I'm obsessed. Is there a place to purchase this fabric online? This fabric is, I think it's called Navy Peony something. I can't remember the title, but it is by Studio Q. The chick's name is Nikki Quartermain, but you can look up Studio Q on Spoonflower, and this is one of her designs. So you can order this fabric, absolutely. Okay, my phone's about to die. I have 5%. I'm going to rush you over to that table so you can take a look at it real quick, and then I'm going to get off of here. So while you are here waiting for me to get to the table, I want you to violently tap that like button so that we can get tons of likes before we get off here. Let's see if we can get to 60,000. We're at 53 now. So let's come up. I made the chair and the table also, by the way. So this was my first tabletop that I did with a CNC router. My second time ever using the CNC router. So zero training. I just used the SOP that is next to the router, which is the standard operating procedure, and the one class that I took to learn how to use it. So not too shabby. I filled it with epoxy. It's my prototype piece, and we did auction this off for a fundraiser for this local makerspace, and we got $420 for it, I think. And so not bad. I learned a lot, and it was a veneer table, so there are some bald spots where it goes down the particle board, but we filled it with epoxy, and it turned out really cool. This is the prototype design. I redesigned the cicada for the table that I'm doing it, and then it opens up and the leaf folds out, and then it has a skull in the middle. So it's going to be very, very cool when it's all done. Okay, I gotta flip this around, and I'm going to leave you guys with this so that I can go get some lunch because I feel like I might die. But I really appreciate you joining me today and taking a tour of this makerspace with me today. You can come and use this makerspace whenever you want, whether you're local or not. I'm here teaching 4 days a week if that's something that you're into. And my phone is about to die before I even finish the sentence. So I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for joining me. Join the local upholstery club. Call your local makerspaces. Let them know I'm going on tour this spring and summer. I would love to come teach you in your own area. Other than that, thank you so much. I really had a lot of fun today. We'll see you again soon. Tuesdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. I'm live every Tuesday. We'll see you there.